Douluo, leave everything on autopilot and become a god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Oscar 039 S Mind. Zio Jiu. Come on. King Kong is not bad and use it. Zhao Walqi looked expectantly at Hu Jiu with an excited expression. Hu Jiu seemed helpless, but in fact he happily rolled up his arms and the muscles in his hands erupted. A layer of undetectable golden light shone on the skin. Sure. Enough. I knew that. You are getting started. You deserve to be my disciple. Okay. Zhao Walqi said 3 good things in a row, showing how excited he was. You can only know the difficulty of horizontal practice kung fu after you have experienced it yourself. Teacher, I have met the requirements. You should give me the next self-created soul skill. Hu Jiu looked at Zhao Wuji expectantly. For what? Isn't it just for this moment? The hang-up seat is calling. No. Hurry. Zhao Walqi smacked his lips. Your Vajra indestructible body is just getting started. It's just the time to consolidate, so you can't delay your cultivation. Zhao Walqi said earnestly, a person's energy is limited. Such a good cultivation talent does not need to be on King Kong's body. What a pity, teacher. You are being unreasonable. Hu Jiu was annoyed. You old man could have said, whoever doesn't acknowledge the debt is the grandson. What do you want to be, in order to obtain the movement skills and soul skills? Hu Jiu had to resort to a unique trick. It was also Zhao Walqi who was arrogant and informal. Otherwise Hu Jiu wouldn't have dared to be so presumptuous. Good boy, I'm afraid you have thought of this day at the beginning. Zhao Wuji looked at Hu Jiu dejectedly, but he was actually tricked by his disciple, which made him reason. Forget it, you little guy. If you really don't give it to you, I'm afraid it will be a mess. Tell me, what kind of soul skill do you want? Helplessly waved his hand. Zhao Wuji said angrily, hey, teacher. Hu Jiu gave a thumbs up happily, and said in a pleasing manner, teacher, I want to avoid attacks and escape easily. You can only choose one, either to be flexible, or to increase speed. How can you have both? I still want this kind of soul skill. Zhao Wuji squinted at him. This kid has a big heart, isn't it? Hu Jiu sighed in disappointment and said honestly, then let's improve physical flexibility. As for speed, we will talk about it later. It used to be a poor soul skill, but now it is better, and there is not enough hang-up position. I'm really happy. Trouble, that is the phantom dodging. After training, the skill is agile, and you can also use your soul power to leave a phantom shadow, which can be used to confuse opponents. This soul skill is extremely difficult. Even the teacher, I haven't practiced it. You first take it and try it. If it doesn't work, forget it. Zhao Walqi searched for a while and finally found an old book. He had quite a few soul skills in his hands, but not many of them were actually mastered. Thank you, teacher. Hu Jiu didn't care whether it was difficult or not. No matter how difficult it was, he wasn't afraid. He talked about the difficulty with the people who were open and joked. Grasping the secret book, Hu Jiu found a stone pier, opened it page by page, and began to study it seriously. No, you little bastard. It's class time now. What are you doing with your reading? Get up. It's important to practice. Zhao Walqi greeted him with a big slap, causing Hu Jiu to jump up instantly. Teacher, I'm reading and studying. Don't worry, I'll practice after I finish reading. Hu Jiu looked innocent. It's a class. It's just reading a book in class. There's nothing wrong with it. Pie. I'll let you pie. I won't practice today. I'll change to actual combat and prepare myself. Only at this moment did Zhao Walqi realize that his disciple is lazy. He has never seen such a lazy person, and he doesn't know how he has cultivated to this state now. However, thinking about his dignified soul sage cultivation base, can he still make a kid turn the world? Well, kid, anyway, he is very solid, and he will be fine with a beating. Oh, boom, boom. For a time, there were pleasant screams and fierce fighting sounds throughout the training ground. Hu Jiu felt that worshipping a teacher seemed to be pitting himself. Are you having a hard time living a good casual day? Why suffer this crime at such a young age? It was almost noon. Hu Jiu dragged his tired body and limped to the playground. Together the physical damage is not bad. Anyway, there is the holy light spirit ability. As long as the person is not missing an arm or a broken leg, a spirit ability will immediately recover as before, and even the spirit will be restored. However, anyone who has been practiced for a whole morning will be exhausted in their hearts, but the road is chosen by oneself. Even with tears in his eyes, he has to finish it. Zio. Woo, is it fun for you to run? Or I'll run with you in the future. I like running the most. Hu Jiu asked weakly, paralyzed on the lawn of the playground. Only at this time did he realize what a wonderful training running was. Running is good, and it builds endurance and builds up your body. It's a perfect workout. There's nothing better than this. Funny shit, come with Shengguan carrot. My leg hurts. Zio Wu also limped to Hu Jiu's side, slumped on top of him regardless of her image. 9th. Brother, save the younger brother. Save the younger brother. I can't move. In the distance, Mahanjan lay directly on the ground, stretched out his hand to look at him from a distance, and shouted for help. Okay, it seems that we are connected by fate. Hu Jiu calmed down. In the arena, only Oscar and Tang San seemed to be fine. Oscar had recovery sausages, and Tang San was in good shape. Since he was a child. Hu Jiu didn't get up either. Hugged Zio Wu, handed a carrot, then threw one to Mahanjan and the other to Tang San. Zio Wu, Zio-san, we should ask the dean for a debt later. He still owes us a soul tool. Seeing Zio Wu's exhausted appearance, Hu Jiu felt a little distressed. If she also had a storage ring, how could it be? Make it like this as for, why not to Tang San? He forgot. In the distance, Oscar looked at the few people who recovered immediately after eating the carrots, and there was a glint of vulture in his eyes. Also, as a food type soul master, he is older than Hu Jiu, and he will no longer be unique in the academy in the future. Although Mahanjan had shown him the effect of Hu Jiu's recovery yesterday, but after seeing it, he felt a deep crisis. Don't look at Oscar laughing and laughing all day, and he looks more than funny, but in fact, he is the smartest person, and he can see the current situation of the academy very clearly. Hu Jiu, Tang San, and Zio Wu are friends who came together. Their friendship is profound and inseparable. In addition, that little fat man Mahanjan couldn't stand Daimyo Bei, so he fell directly to Hu Jiufang, which made him have to suffer too. So he had to change his neutral attitude and start to move closer to Daimyo Bei. Only in this way can he fight against the group Hu Jiu, and he will have a place. Otherwise, with Hu Jiu, a food type soul master who completely beat him, how could he be valued by the academy? He had considered all these things clearly. No matter how unwilling he was, he would push Daimyo Bei out to fight against Hu Jiu and the others, not to win or lose, but to gain more training from the academy. I said, Fatty, you brought it on yourself. Who told you not to eat my sausages? It's not that you haven't eaten them before, and you're still disgusted. Humph, I won't give you my sausages in the future. Oscar took a sausage and came to Mahanjan to make fun of him with a smile. He said that in the end, he looked even more aggrieved. Isn't it just that the spell is disgusting and it doesn't affect the effect? Is it so disgusting? Chapter 77 FLENDER and -039 S training. Zio, you have a little self-knowledge. Can you do it? Just your disgusting spell. If it is really impossible, who will eat it? At this time, Daimyo Bei also limped to the playground. Daimyo Bei would not be polite to Oscar. As a prince, in this academy, apart from being a little polite to his teachers, he didn't need to be polite to the rest. As soon as Daimyo Bei finished speaking, Oscar's eyes changed instantly, and then returned to normal, without anyone finding out. Arrogant and ignorant idiot. Haha, Oscar, this is what Boss Day said. With Brother 9 here, I will never eat your disgusting sausage again. You should keep that sausage for yourself. Mahanjan jumped up from the ground and said proudly, HMPH. Don't eat it, my sausage is delicious. Oscar took a bite of the sausage, squinting his eyes, and enjoying the deliciousness. Cough. Cough. At this moment, Flender appeared on the playground in an instant, and even Tang San and Hu Jiu, who had amazing eyesight, didn't realize how he appeared. It seems that you have all completed today's tasks, and they are all very good. Nodding in appreciation, Flender's next words shocked everyone present. There is one last task now, and you can rest after finishing it. The mission is also very simple. When you come to Shrek, you are a group, partners, and teammates who can rely on each other. Now, it's time to test you. Oscar, come out and prepare the sausages for me. Yes. Oscar replied excitedly. Damubei's expression changed. This scene seemed familiar. Hu Jiu also reacted at this time. This is to let them eat sausages. On the other hand, Xiao Wu, Tang San and Mahanjan didn't react because they never thought there would be such a bizarre task. Sure enough, Flender's next words confirmed Hu Jiu's guess. The task is very simple. Just eat one of Oscar's sausages. I have a big sausage. I have a big sausage. Oscar chanted the spell proudly, and his voice became louder and louder, for fear that others would not hear it. This is absolutely disgusting us. Hu Jiu clenched his fists while watching Xiao Wu's nausea. You might not be able to run away with this beating. President, why did you let us eat Oscar's sausage? Tang San's expression was a little weird. He didn't want to eat this kind of weird sausage. Why, you don't even want to eat it? Flender's eyes slammed, and the aura of Soul Saint burst out, pressing on everyone. This is called adaptive training. Let me ask you, is life more important, or faces more important? When you can only choose one of the two, which one will you choose? Oscar's soul spell is a little nasty, but the recovery effect is very good. During the academy, he was one of you, and you will practice together. If you can't reach a tacit understanding with him, you will waste your best support partner. At the same time, this is also a training for your mentality. If you can't even do this, how will you survive in the Soul Master world in the future? In order to survive, you must do whatever you can, let alone eating a sausage, when your life is at stake. Even mice, cockroaches, and earthworms have to eat. Tang San lowered his head when he was told. He felt that what the dean said was right. If he couldn't overcome even the slightest difficulty, how could he become stronger in the future? President, when Tang San was about to agree, Hu Jiu interrupted him. President, I think what you said is quite right. In order to survive, we really have to do whatever we can. For the sake of life, let alone mice, cockroaches, and earthworms. I can eat all the dirt, but Hu Jiu raised his voice. Right now we are not trying to survive. Are we going to let us eat his sausages for a speculation that we don't know if it will happen in the future? I think, Dean, you are disrespecting us. You are even insulting us. Hu Jiu stared at Flender. Although the aura on his body was weak, he was not afraid at all. Make him eat Oscar's sausage for a ridiculous reason. Possible. Then, what if I insist on you eating it? Flender looked at Hu Jiu lightly and pressed him fiercely. Hu Jiu's transformation skills turned on, and his body instantly became bigger. While under pressure, he said firmly, then, I will drop out of school. I also dropped out. It's just a bad school. What's so great? Xiao Wu came to Hu Jiu, took his hand, and shared the pressure with him. Tang San also came to Hu Jiu's side, silently sharing the pressure for him. Teacher, I don't want to eat it either. Mahanjan gritted his teeth and said with closed eyes, but he didn't dare to go up to Flender as ridiculous in the field. Only two people did not move. That was Oscar and Damubei. Oscar's face was dark at this time, and his gloomy eyes were not concealed at all. Hu Jiu and several people would rather drop out of school, would rather confront the dean than eat his sausage. He felt that he was insulted. If eyes can kill people, maybe Hu Jiu and several others will be dead beyond death. On the other side, Damubei's face didn't look much better because of the same choice. He also faced it last year, but at that time, he chose to accept it. But because of this, Damubei was very jealous. Why did you dare to confront the dean? I accepted it. Why didn't you accept it? He can't. He did not have the courage of Hu Jiu. If he had the courage of Hu Jiu back then, why would he go to this shabby place like Shrek and be his prince? Boss. Fu, what are you doing? They are still children. Can't you say something? Just as Hu Jiu moved his finger and was about to merge with Xiao Wu's spirit, Xiao Wuji appeared. He suddenly came to Hu Jiu-san and tried to restrain Flanders' coercion for them while persuading him with a naive smile. Humph. What am I doing? You ask them what they want to do. They can even refuse the tasks arranged by the academy. Without education, they will not know how high the sky is and how thick the ground is. Flanders said angrily. Still want to drop out of school when I, Shrek, come as soon as I want and leave as soon as I want. Xiao. Jiu. Xiao-san, what's the matter with you? Boss Fu is training you. Can he still harm you? Quickly, apologize to the dean, and this will be over. Xiao Wuji turned his back to Flender. He kept giving Hu Jiu a wink. It's a pity that Hu Jiu still stared at Flender without showing weakness. You Flanders are awesome. Try to touch me. It's fine if you touch me. Do you dare to touch Tang San? Flender, sooner or later I will disgust you. Chapter 78 Subduing Mahanjan. Flender is off. I thought I could easily overwhelm a few little guys, just like Daimyo back then. But he didn't expect Hu Jiu to be so rigid, and Xiao Wu and Tang San also decisively stood by Hu Jiu's side and fought against him together. He just wanted the new students to be obedient. The students enrolled this year are all top geniuses, and geniuses are all arrogant. In order to facilitate teaching, it is reasonable to suppress their self-esteem appropriately, but who would have thought that in Hu Jiu's heart, Oscar's big sausage is equivalent to the root? Although it is not true, it feels like this. It is absolutely impossible for him to eat a person's roots. When he saw a fan in his previous life, he was very strange. Why would those transmigrators eat the root without any hesitation? Even if one was not enough, they licked their faces to ask for. Now after experiencing this kind of scene personally, Hu Jiu realized that he couldn't do it himself. He seemed too hypocritical, unwilling to compromise. Now it's hard for Flender to ride a tiger. Now it's not about whether to eat sausages or not. Now it's Hu Jiu and the three who are going to drop out. He was a little regretful, knowing that they would be so rigid. Why would he use this method? It is impossible for them to drop out of school. I, Shrek, have not accepted such outstanding students for many years, so I must stay. Humph. All of you haven't completed your mission today. You are not allowed to eat lunch. Xiao Wuji, you stare at them for me. I'll see who dares to eat. With a cold snort, Flender fluttered his sleeves and left. The posture of walking seems to be a little embarrassed, and there is freedom and ease in the embarrassment. HMPH. So what if you don't eat sausages? I haven't convinced you yet. Who dares to eat today? Let's see if I don't slap him. Oscar and Daimyo. It's none of our business. We can get the job done. The two felt aggrieved. Obviously they didn't blame them. It doesn't make sense to punish you and punish Hu Jiu. The two dared not express their anger. They did not dare to express their anger in front of Flender, so they could only be transferred to Hu Jiu, the instigator to Hu Jiu. They dare to be angry. After Flender left, under Xiao Wu's angry explanation, Xiao Walqi finally figured out the whole story. Of course, in Xiao Wu's mouth, Flender was described as an evil great devil who specifically bullied them, these future titled Douluos, and they were unyielding and finally defeated. The evil great devil. This kind of adaptation ability blinded Xiao Walqi. Could it be that Mr. Fu is really so evil? In the end, Tang San couldn't see it and explained what happened just now in an impartial manner. Hey, isn't it just a sausage? A manly man. What are you doing so hypocritically? Xiao Walqi raised his chest and made a manly expression that he wanted to be strong. Look, this has angered the careful boss Fu. In the future, you will feel better. Thinking of Flender's careful eyes, Xiao Walqi shrank his neck and always felt the back of his hand was cold. His words should not be heard by the boss. Mr. Xiao, you haven't eaten my big sausage. Oscar's voice of grievance came, giving Xiao Wuji a fatal blow. Haha, this is easy to understand, right? As a real man, if you have the spirit of not being afraid of pain and not afraid of suffering, how can you eat sausages for a little injury? But I often see you running to teacher Xiao's in Xiao's place. Daimyo added coldly. Fuck off. I was in touch with Lao Xiao, not for treatment. Zhao Walqi looked at Damube and Oscar angrily. Good boy. Dare to demolish the stage in front of my disciple. You are finished. Okay, I've been tired from training all morning. You guys should go back to rest. Remember, don't eat lunch. Otherwise I won't be able to keep you all. Zhao Walqi waved his hand and signaled his dismissal. Brother Jiu, you were so mighty just now. You dare to be tough on teacher Steel. My younger brother admires it. After Zhao Walqi left, Mahanjan ran up to Hu Jiu like a dog's legs and flattered. HMPH. That's right. My little Jiu is already mighty. So soft like you. You actually hide behind it. It's really embarrassing for me. Zhao Wu proudly held Hu Jiu's arm. After the confession that night, the relationship with Hu Jiu has been officially established. Hu Jiu can be so powerful, why not make her proud, sister? Wu, that's my teacher, how dare I contradict? Mahanjan lowered his head aggrievedly. He also felt that his behavior just now was embarrassing. Forget it. Xioma has no choice but to speak for us just now. Yes, he is very courageous. He is a man. I approve of you. Hu Jiu patted Mahanjan on the shoulder. He was surprised that Mahanjan could hide behind and shout something point after all. He was already contradicting the teacher. Haha, I knew that brother Jiu knew me best. Hearing Hu Jiu's compliment, Mahanjan's face opened with a smile. If he can follow Hu Jiu, a promising man, he will flourish in the future. Let's go. Come to my dormitory and have a seat. Now that he approves of this little brother Mahanjan, let him taste the sweetness so that he can know how correct his decision to follow him is. Looking at the few people walking away, Damube and Oscar behind him looked very ugly. This was clearly excluding them. Involuntarily, the two looked at each other, tacitly approached each other, imitated Hu Jiu's appearance, and walked away in the opposite direction. Hu Jiu in the distance felt the scene behind him, and there was a trace of disdain at the corner of his mouth. Pony, do you know why we are the same age, but our spirit power level is so much higher than yours? Hu Jiu said lightly, while playing with Zhao Wu's fingers in the dormitory. Zhao Wu's hands were as white as lotus roots, with baby-like pinkness on her fingers, soft and glutinous on the belly of her fingers, and it felt very comfortable to touch. Being treated like this in front of so many people. Zhao Wu bowed her head shyly. Where is the pungency of Sister Zhao Wu? 9th brother, there's no need to ask. You and the third brother, including Sister Zhao Wu, who is not a genius with a heaven-defying talent. I'm just a mutated martial soul. My talent has improved. How can I compare with you? Speaking of this, Mahanjan is a little inferior. His trash martial arts spirit, called Phoenix, is actually similar to grass chicken. Just because of this trash martial arts spirit, his youth has been wasted. Can you believe that my innate soul power is only level 2? Hu Jiu sneered. What is talent? He can decide everything. What? How is this possible? Hearing that Hu Jiu only had second level innate soul power, Mahanjan stood up in shock. Can second level innate soul power be faster than cultivation? To the point where he can't even see his head. Nothing is impossible. Look at what this is. Hu Jiu took out a light red carrot with a hint of profiteer expression. Beside him, Tang San watched this scene speechlessly. Back then, it was because of this that he owed a huge debt. Chapter 79 The Obedient Zhao. Come on, eat this carrot, and you will know how happy it is to cultivate. Hu Jiu was like a demon, seducing Mahanjan into the abyss of depravity. Then, I'll eat it. Mahanjan was frightened by Hu Jiu's expression. He grabbed the carrot in a panic and didn't dare to speak. Hurry up, don't be mother-in-law. Can I still harm you? Seeing Mahanjan's timid appearance, Hu Jiu frowned and scolded. Oh, eat here, eat here. Hu Jiu's anger was still very deterrent. Mahanjan was frightened by him, hurriedly grabbed the carrot and ate it in big gulps. Practice. Under Hu Jiu's order, Mahanjan sat cross-legged obediently, closed his eyes, and started to practice. A quarter of an hour later, Mahanjan completed a stage of meditation, opened his eyes, and showed an ecstatic expression on his face. Brother Jiu, you will be my brother from now on. No, even more than my brother, eldest brother. I finally waited for you. Mahanjan's chubby body jumped up in an instant, and he flew to Hu Jiu and hugged him. His thighs don't let go. Hey, you're a good kid. Hu Jiu looked at Mahanjan with a look of admiration on his face, and was very proud of himself. He was fed by him again. Brother. Jiu, I feel like I've eaten your carrots, and my practice is as fast as driving a car. I only know now that this is the real practice. Mahanjan lost his face and kept flattering Hu Jiu. Comfortable. It seems that you have found the true meaning of life, and it is not in vain for me to cultivate you. However, you know that there is no free lunch in the world. Brothers are brothers. You still have to collect money for this carrot. Hu Jiu looked at Mahanjan with a smile, and finally showed the fangs in his heart. Yes, how good is the relationship between Xiaozhen and Hu Jiu? The relationship is more intimate than that of a brother. It's not like paying for it. If you have this opportunity, you can be content. This kind of big opportunity doesn't happen all the time. Aside, Xiao followed. Mahanjan raised his head and glanced at Tang San. Tang San nodded with a wry smile, although Hu Jiu only wanted the price of 1 silver soul coin. But after a few years, he couldn't remember how much he owed. He only knew a lot. But, brother ninth, I have no money. Mahanjan said pitifully with a sad face. Because of his martial soul defect, all his money was spent on weed hooks, and he only dared to go to the cheapest place. Now, how could he have the money to buy carrots for cultivation? Well, you're also pitiful. Brother Jiu, I'm not an unsympathetic person. In that case, I'll allow you to keep your accounts and pay it back slowly without charging interest. At this moment, Hu Jiu felt that he was the boss. In the era of rapidly rising prices, he did not want interest. Sure enough, he was still too kind. Great, thank you ninth brother. Mahanjan raised his head in surprise, but then he remembered, as if he hadn't asked the price yet. How much is that? Not much, just 1 gold soul coin. This is already the price of cabbage. If it were someone else, I would definitely sell him for 100. Hu Jiu raised his fingers and said with a smile. It doesn't matter if it's money or not. He mainly likes the feeling of being a creditor. Tang San owes him. Mahanjan also owes him. TSK. It feels good to be a creditor. Hearing Hu Jiu's offer, Tang San's eyes were filled with emotion. This is his own brother, selling someone else a gold soul coin, selling him only a silver soul coin. It's almost like giving away. Brothers. Ninth. Brother, I'll buy it. Mahanjan nodded fiercely. The great opportunity is in front of him. He can't give up. It's just money. He will go to less places in the future and save the money for cultivation. When the cultivation base is high, he will show off in front of that lustful tiger and see if he dares to look down on himself. Okay, take these carrots to practice slowly and ask me for them when you run out. By the way, this practice carrot lasts only 1 hour. Remember to take it on time. Hu Jiu took out a bunch of them from the storage ring. Carrot, reminded with a smile. Yeah. Mahanjan wrapped the carrot in his clothes and held it in his arms like a baby, as if he was afraid that someone would steal it. After negotiating a deal, it's time to practice the phantom dodging soul skill. After the soul skill was acquired, he never had time to learn it. Now it was just right. He estimated that there would be a good show to be staged in the evening. Before that, you need to get the skills done first. In the dormitory, Hu Jiu was reading carefully, and beside him, Xiao was beside him, reading with him. Literary beauty, take it easy. An hour later, Hu Jiu stretched and looked at the on-hook panel in his sight. On the 9th hang-up position, the icon indicating phantom dodging was shining brightly, and the progress bar kept providing him with skill insights. Hey, with the phantom dodging, plus King Kong's indestructible body, we can finally start a head-to-head battle in the future. A real man just needs to fight hard. After the skill of phantom dodging is practiced, the skill will be very flexible. If you practice it to a high depth, you can even sense the autumn wind before it moves, and it can also produce phantoms to confuse the enemy's sight. If you use it well, it can produce very good results. Looking at the full onboard positions on the onboard panel, Hu Jiu felt a sense of satisfaction from the bottom of his heart. After so many years, it is not easy to finally fill up the skills at this moment. For these skills, how much hardship, How much thought and how much grievance he suffered. Well, Xiao Jiu, have you finished reading? Beside her, Xiao Wu opened her eyes in a daze, and she was awakened by Hu Jiu's movement. Well, don't sleep, let's go out for a walk. I've been at the academy for so long, and I haven't seen this academy well. It's inappropriate, said, to visit the academy. In fact, it is also to collect information, so as to facilitate the action at night. You know, there may be a big play going on tonight. What's so good about this broken academy? Why don't we go to Soto City to play? You said you took me to see the Great Soul Arena. When it came to play, Xiao Wu immediately got up and was no longer sleepy. Don't be in a hurry at the Great Soul Arena. I'll take you there when I have time. Today I'm going to start practicing the phantom dodging skills. Hu Jiu made up a reason without blinking his eyes. You can go to the Great Soul Arena whenever you want, but the good show tonight is gone. Alright. Then, listen to you. Xiao Wu blinked her eyes in disappointment, but nodded obediently. After being forced into a showdown by Hu Jiu, she gradually became obedient to Hu Jiu. He is a human. She is a beast, and Hu Jiu didn't despise her, even after knowing her identity, which moved her deeply. Before she knew it, Hu Jiu had already held an important place in her heart. It was so important that she could even ignore her life. Maybe this is the feeling of human beings. Chapter 80 Flanders beaten. At night, the stars are bright in the sky. Hu Jiu was lying on the bed. The 5 sense enhancement technique was fully activated, and he was always aware of the school's troubles in his hand. He is holding a delicate jar, which is a good thing he bought at a high price. The name, Acacia Drunk Red Dust. Just when Hu Jiu was waiting impatiently, his brows suddenly loosened, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. In his perception, a deeply hidden, almost untraceable domineering aura was rushing towards Flender's residence at an extremely fast speed. This group of breaths stagnated for a few breaths, and then disappeared towards the back mountain of the college at a very fast speed. After a while, Flender's breath appeared and chased after the breath that was about to disappear. Seeing this, Hu Jiu hurriedly stuffed the jar into the storage ring and kept using teleport to catch up, ignoring the loss at all. On the way of teleporting, he also activated the change skill, changed the muscles of his calf. His body turned into a lightning bolt and quickly chased in the direction of the 2 breaths. It's not easy to be unhappy. It's rare to see Flender being cleaned up in 100 years. Today, he has to catch up in time for whatever he says. Fortunately, in his perception, when the 2 breaths ran out for almost 5 miles, they finally stopped, allowing him to catch up slowly. At the same time, he found that Xiao Waoqi's breath also appeared in the other direction. If Hu Jiu didn't react in time, he would have almost collided with him. Come out, I have found you. Here. Flender stopped in the forest with a dignified expression. A pair of huge black wings showed behind him. He was an agile attack type soul sage. In the state of spirit possession, he actually lost in speed. Is simply incredible. As soon as Flender's words fell, a tall figure in a black robe, covering his face, appeared in front of him. Lo Flanders, may I ask your excellency, do you have any advice for leading me here late at night? Advice? You can also say the same. I came to you for no other reason, just wanted to learn from you. I haven't done it for a long time, just to loosen my muscles and bones. The person said lightly. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and suddenly, a black light emerged, condensing into a sledgehammer in his hand. At the same time, the 9 spirit rings slowly floated up from under his feet, wrapping his figure inside the spirit rings, especially the last spirit ring, which was faintly red in the black. 2 yellows, 2 purples, and 5 blacks. The tyrannical and domineering aura slowly rose, and he pressed his head towards Flender, instantly making Flender feel breathless. Title: Douluo, Heyo, Your Majesty Heyotian. Flender swallowed his saliva, sweating all over his body. Damn, when did I accidentally provoke this big guy? This is bad. Hey, there's one more. Come out. What's the difference between 1 and 2? The visitor glanced in the direction where Xiao Waoqi was, and said lightly, Uncle, Heyo is domineering. Hu Jiu looked enviously at Tang Heyo, who was clearly dressed in tatters, but exuded the breath of a peerless master. He only felt that he had learned point the next moment. Xiao Walqi showed his figure, and at the moment of his appearance, he was possessed by a strong King Kong bear, and looked at Tang Heo with a vigilant expression. Boss, what's the situation? When did you provoke title Douluo? Flender ignored Xiao Walqi, but saluted Tang Heo with a respectful face. I have seen His Majesty Heoshan. Hi. Now Xiao Walqi heard clearly, it was actually this one. No wonder the boss was so respectful, and didn't dare to neglect. Xiao Walqi also touched his chest with his right hand and bowed respectfully. I have seen your majesty Heoshan. Don't be too polite, I'm here to ask for trouble. Tang Heo waved his hand, and his right hand, the clear sky hammer, stood under his feet. I don't know when I offended your majesty. The so-called ignorant is not guilty. Your majesty, I don't want to go against you. Flender grimaced, only feeling aggrieved. He is obviously already very careful. He has been hiding in Shrek for more than 20 years. How could he provoke this lord? If you bully the young, the adults will naturally come to the door. Don't talk nonsense. Today's beating you is decided. Don't worry, don't say I bullied you. I don't need martial arts. Tang Heo, I don't say a word, just turn around and leave, otherwise, you have to help me with one thing. Tang Heo took back his spirit, and disappeared with his spirit ring. My surname is Tang San, I understand. At this moment, Flender suddenly understood how he had provoked this guy. Fortunately, he didn't act too much today, otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to leave intact. Well said. Okay, don't talk nonsense. Let's do it. You go away, or even you will be beaten. Tang Heo glanced at Xiao Walqi and was so frightened that he waved his hands again and again, hurriedly released his spirit possession, and kept shrinking back for fear that this man would notice him. Boss, you caused this disaster yourself. It has nothing to do with me, brother. At this moment, a feeling of excitement rose in Xiao Wuji's heart, which made him very ashamed. Why was he happy when the boss was beaten? Bang bang, bang bang, bang bang. The ground trembled, the air vibrated, screams, muffled hums, and collisions intertwined to form wonderful notes. I really want to do it myself. Beating people with empty hands must feel good. This thought flashed through Hu Jiu's mind, but he was soon abandoned by him. In any case, Flender was also an academy teacher, and he, Hu Jiu, was also a person who respected teachers. Well, you can't have delusional thoughts after dozens of seconds. Tang Heo stood with his hands behind his back, as if nothing had happened. Well, the anger is out. Now it's time for you to do things for me. Tang Heo's mouth moved slightly, and a faint voice came out. Even Hu Jiu, who had all 5 senses, didn't hear what he said. Yes, your majesty Heoshan, but Flender and Xiao Walqi seemed to have heard it, and respectfully agreed, with unstoppable smiles on their faces. Uncle Heo is also true. Why don't you let me hear it, and hide it? It's not a big deal. Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Wuji depressedly, and helped Flender to leave. I want this kind of benefit too. Come out, kid. How long are you going to stay? Suddenly, Tang Heo glanced at Hu Jiu's hidden position and said lightly, Hey, Uncle Heo, it's been a long time since I've seen you. Xiaozhen and I both miss you. Why did you show up after so long? Hu Jiu trotted out of the hiding place with a smile. With his cultivation base, it would be impossible to hide in front of titled Douluo. If it wasn't for Flender and Xiao Wuji's attention, they wouldn't even be able to hide it from Tang Heo. Miss me. Why didn't you think about me when you cheated on Xiaozhen? Facing the enthusiastic Hu Jiu, Tang Heo didn't change his face, but asked in a bad tone, Heaven, Uncle Heo, can you be reasonable? Without my help, do you think Xiaozhen would be able to reach level 33 now? Me, I helped him. Hu Jiu pointed at himself with an exaggerated expression, as if he had suffered a great grievance. Hey, you kid. You have a lot of hearts and minds. Tang Heo finally couldn't hold back. His face softened, and he scolded lightly with a smile. Hey, that is, Uncle Heo, look, this is a good wine I prepared for you. Acacia is drunk with red dust. I bought this for a lot of money. I have wanted to honor your old man for a long time. Hu Jiu smiled proudly. quickly took out the wine jar and leaned over like a dog's leg. Chapter 81 Flanders bleeding. Tang Heo grabbed the wine jar, took a few sips with pride, and after a long time, a faint longing flashed in his eyes. The wine is good. I have a heart. I should. If Uncle Heo didn't teach me the method of chaotic cloak hammering, I'm a food type soul master. How can I have the current combat power? After receiving Tang Heo's praise, Hu Jiu laughed bluntly. For Tang Heo, he is really grateful. If it wasn't for the random cloak hammer technique, he would not have been able to show his skills in front of Xiao Wu so that she could take a high look at her, and in the end, it took a lot of thought to get Xiao Wu done. It can be said that without Tang Heo teaching him to mess around with a cloak, he might not be able to handle Xiao Wu so smoothly. Anyone who is really a little rabbit can master it. Little San, is he okay? Tang Heo didn't ask why Hu Jiu was not surprised to see his strength, nor did he ask why Hu Jiu dared to follow him here. At his level of cultivation, there are not many people who can arouse his interest. Besides Yin and Xiao San, what else can be worthy of his attention? Little San is very good. He just misses you a lot, especially in the first few years. He feels gloomy every time he comes home, but he is very sensible and knows that you have your own business to do, so he doesn't blame you for leaving without saying goodbye. Hu Jiu said, well, I've suffered for this child. Tang Heo's eyes flashed with a hint of guilt, but he became firm again in an instant. His business is not over yet. Hu Jiu, take care of Xiao San for me, and don't tell him about my appearance. I still have some things to do. I'll meet him when I'm done. Tang Heo instructed. Don't worry, Uncle Heo. No one dares to bully the mistress when I'm here. Hu Jiu slapped bang bang on his chest. He would definitely take care of him, even if Flender was beaten up today. Well, I heard that you like to create your own soul skills very much. I came here in a hurry this time, and I have no preparation. I will pay attention to it for you in the future. I will give it to you when we meet next time. It is a reward for helping me take care of the mistress. After taking the last sip wine, Tang Heo nodded to Hu Jiu and turned to leave. Uncle Heo, take care of your safety. Xiao San and I will miss you. Hu Jiu waved to Tang Heo reluctantly. Tang Heo didn't look back, just paused slightly and then left quickly. He self-created soul skills. Sure enough, my thoughts were not in vain, and finally it's beneficial. Hu Jiu's heart flashed a hint of joy. Title Douluo helped him find soul skills. What a face. Although he got the benefits of Tang Heo, Hu Jiu still criticized him quite a bit because Yin's death made him so decadent. Not very manly. If it were him, he might have handed Tang San over to someone he trusted to help raise him, and then he would have embarked on the path of revenge alone. How much power can a title Douluo who is desperate for revenge only for revenge burst out? Of course, these words are only in his heart. He is only a small soul sect, and he is a title Douluo, so how can he be qualified to evaluate? Besides, he also got other people's benefits, so he can't be ungrateful. The next day at the college playground, Flender appeared in front of everyone with a pig-headed face on his face. There's no other way. Someone's dignified title Douluo being fortunate enough to beat him is almost like a gift. He didn't dare to use the treatment. He only dared to wait for him to disappear slowly. Who is this? Why is he wearing the dean's clothes? Xiao Wu cried out in surprise, but she held back a deep smile. Yes, she did it on purpose. Teacher, what's the matter with you? Mahanjan also shouted, but there was concern in his voice. Cough, don't make trouble. Teacher Xiao will take you to training today. Tang San, Hu Jiu, Xiao Wu, the three of you come with me. Flender pretended to be majestic and did not explain the matter of turning into a pig's head. How to explain? Did you get favored by title Douluo last night, or did you accidentally fall while walking? Yes. Everyone held back their laughter and responded loudly. Flender took Hu Jiu and the others in the direction of Soto City. President, where are you taking us? Xiao Wu jumped around and looked around, feeling a little strange about Flender's behavior. On the other hand, Hu Jiu was thoughtful. Hey, this stingy old man was beaten, and I'm afraid he is about to fulfill his promise. Just follow along. I'll find out later. Flender's tone was a little stiff, and he was about to take out his favorite collection. He was very distressed. However, he had no choice but to do this. There weren't many chances to curry favor with the titled Douluo. In his opinion, cursing Tang San was equivalent to cursing His Majesty Tang Heo. Hey, don't ask Xiao Wu. You can tell from the dean's distressed expression. He is about to return our soul tool. Wait a minute, you will have a soul tool too. Hu Jiu teased. He is not afraid of Flender now, with Tang Heo behind him. What is he afraid of? In Hu Jiu's opinion, as long as Tang San is still around, Tang Heo will always be his thigh. Really? When did the dean become so generous? Xiao Wu raised her head in surprise, then whispered in Hu Jiu's ear, isn't he stingy? How could Xiao Wu's whispers be concealed from Flender? The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, deliberately pretending not to hear him, and turned around and retorted, Xiao Wu, you may have misunderstood this old man. I have always. They are all very generous. As soon as these words came out, Flender was greeted with 3 neatly rolled eyes. Even Tang San didn't believe such words soon. Hu Jiu came to Flender's shop again. Hu Jiu was right. I brought you here today to fulfill my promise. Since I promised to give each of you a soul tool, I will not break my promise. In the future, don't call me stingy. Flender, his eyes swept across everyone's faces one by one, and finally stopped at Tang San point this time. It's mainly for him. Dean, we agreed. I want 10 cubes of storage soul tools, nothing else. Hu Jiu was excited. 10 cubes, how many carats would it take? Me. 2. I also want to store the soul tool. 10 cubes. No, I want 50 cubes. Xiao Wu raised her small hand and said with a big heart, no, how can there be 50 cubes? There is only one of 10 cubes. You can discuss it yourself. Flender shook his head repeatedly. 50 cubes. He still wants it. There's only one. What about the rest? Hu Jiu looked at Flender suspiciously. This old guy probably wouldn't be willing to take it out, but forget it. It's rare for him to bleed once, and he can take it when he sees it. I remember there is another 8 cube. Flender said without blinking. Oh, then Xiao Wu, and I want 10 cubes and 9 cubes. Principal, don't be stingy. Hu Jiu looked back at Tang San. We'll all remember your goodness, right little San? Well, the dean is a good person. Tang San said without hesitation. Point in his heart, Flender was really good to them. Not only did he bring people to help them hunt for soul rings, but he also gave them soul tools. Could it be bad? Thanks to Zion Hanlin, book friend 150,508,190,546,707. Book friend 201706192111214002. Rock Blossom's reward. Good guy. I even thank myself for being ruthless. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 80 to Oscar 039's request. In the end, Hu Jiu got what he wanted and knocked out a 10 cubic wrist and a 9 cubic exquisite necklace in Flender's hand. It can be seen that the old man still has good things in his hands. Little San, what kind of soul tool do you want? Do you want me to introduce it to you? Facing Tang San, Flender calmed down, a smile on his meticulous face. Tang San was not surprised by Flender's obvious attitude. He thought it was because of Grandmaster after all. It was the master who asked him to come to Shrek, and he also gave Flender a letter. The elders don't dare to give up. I want whatever the dean gives me. Tang San said respectfully. Damn it. Hu Jiu almost swears when he hears these words. Xiao Zan, when it comes to chicken thieves, no one can compare to you. You said so. Is Flanders too embarrassed to give you something good? Well, what a good boy. Look, you all learned from the junior 3, and even bargained with an elder with me. Flender looked at Tang San with relief, and then glanced at Hu Jiu, meaning profound. The dean is right. In the future, I will learn from the junior 3, learn how to be a calm chicken thief. In this respect, Tang San is the master. Let Me think about it, Xiaozan already has 24 bridges and bright moonlit nights, and there is no shortage of storage soul tools. Then I will give you a practical one. How about this Azura mask? Saying that, Flender took out an ugly mask on the counter and stared at the mask. Everyone only felt a ferocious aura coming towards them. This Azura mask has its own mental shocking skills. If he encounters someone who is weaker than his own mental power, he can make people stiff and unable to move. Even if their mental power is higher than their own, they can also make the opponent in a trance. It is invalid for Soul Saint and above. It is a good gadget. Good stuff. It also comes with its own skills. This mask is the real treasure. Hu Jiu looked at the Azura mask and Tang San's hand enviously. Although it is ineffective against the Soul Sage or above, it is more powerful than the Soul Sage. How strong is it? This shortcoming was insignificant in Hu Jiu's view. Thank you, Dean. Tang San clearly understood the value of Shura's mask, and he simply couldn't put it down. After taking over the mask, okay, the promise to you has been fulfilled. We should go back to class. Flender looked at Tang San's expression with satisfaction. This investment was worth it. Several people returned the same way, and it was almost noon when they returned to the academy. After lunch, training begins this time. Flender mainly let them fight in turn. Hu Jiu, Damu Bei, Tang San, Xiao Wu, Mahangjin, except Oscar of course. When facing weaker opponents, the stronger ones will be restricted to achieve the exercise effect point during this period. Flender and Xiao Waoqi would also give them some pointers, teaching them how to seize the opportunity to fight, how to maximize their advantages, etc. After a training session, Hu Jiu and others achieved good results and gained new insights on how to fight. In the afternoon, after the training, Oscar came to the crowd in a grievance. I'm so envious of you battle type soul masters. You can fight a battle happily. Unlike me, not only can't fight, but you also need someone's protection. It's so pitiful. Heh, that's because you're incompetent. Look at my little Jiu. He's not also a food type soul master. He fights harder than us, so you can only blame yourself. Xiao Wu hugged Hu Jiu's arm, proudly the way, yeah, it's all because I'm not capable. It would be great if I also had Hu Jiu's ability. A hint of joy flashed in Oscar's eyes, and then looked at Hu Jiu and the others enviously. By the way, I saw just now, you guys, they are all using that soul skill called Spiral Pill. Can this soul skill food type also be used? Of course. This spirit skill was made by Xiao Jiu for her own body. Didn't you see whether the food system can be used? Xiao Wu looked at Oscar with contempt. Envy. My Xiao Jiu is amazing. How many? This soul skill was created years ago. Hey, this is Hu Jiu's own creation? Or was it created a few years ago? How is this possible? Oscar was shocked. This shock was not fake. He thought that they did not know where this spirit ability came from. I learned it. How did I think that this was actually created by Hu Jiu? Self-created soul skills are not just for fun. If a soul skill is used well, it is equivalent to one more soul ring skill. In this world, one more soul skill will give one more advantage point. Many soul masters spend their entire lives, not to mention possessing their own soul skills, even those they have never heard of. But Hu Jiu created a soul skill a few years ago. What a great talent. For a time, Oscar's eyes were full of envy, and even a trace of jealousy, but his eyes were very obscure, and they just disappeared in a flash, and no one noticed at all. Besides, everyone was shocked by the news from Xiao Wu's mouth. Especially Damu Bei, as the prince of the Star Luo Empire. Only he knew how precious the self-created soul skills were. Even in the royal family, the self-created soul skills were the most precious secrets, and even he had never touched a few of them. It's a pity that he has no talent in self-created soul skills. In order not to hinder his cultivation, he didn't bother to create his own soul skills at all. He simply practiced for a few days, and when it didn't work, he gave up decisively. If you have time to cultivate your own soul skills, you might as well use it to improve your soul power. After all, as your level increases, you can naturally hunt for soul rings and acquire soul ring skills. So why bother practicing thankless soul skills? Nothing is impossible. If something happens, it will happen. As long as you work hard, you can also create your own soul skills. Hu Jiu looked at Oscar with a light smile, his eyes full of encouragement. There is no need to guess Oscar's little thought. Hu Jiu can see it clearly at a glance. However, how could his self-created soul skill be taught to a stranger for nothing? Hey, how can I have your talent, Hu Jiu? It's not like you don't know. Our food system soul master is the most difficult to cultivate in all systems. In order to improve soul power, I have already taken up all my spare time. How can there be create your own kung fu? Oscar's face was filled with frustration, and suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he looked at Hu Jiu with piercing eyes. Ninth. Brother, my own brother, since you created this soul skill yourself, can you teach it to me? Little brother, I have no attack ability at all. If I encounter an enemy, I can only be slaughtered by others. If you have a self-created soul skill, you can at least have some self-protection ability, right? Oscar licked his face, imitating Mahanjan's appearance, and called him brother without hesitation. Isn't it just a title? Just bow his head. For a self-created soul skill, he doesn't care about his face or anything. Ha. Ha. Chapter 83 Contradictions. Oscar is not unsmart. First, he used Xiao Wu as a breakthrough to ask about the origin of Helix Pill, and then expressed his shock to Hu Jiu, who created Helix Pill. Immediately afterwards, he expressed his pity because he was a food type soul master without attack power, and finally asked Hu Jiu to be shameless, expressing that he also wanted to learn this invisible calculation. TSK. Brilliant. Hu Jiu immediately looked at Oscar with admiration. Remember that he is only 13 years old now, as expected of man who can pick up the beautiful girl of the 7 treasure glazed tile school of heaven. It's a pity that Hu Jiu won't get used to him, and wants to teach him spiral pills. Why? Is it big by face? Back then, for a soul skill, he was respectful in front of the master, and he voluntarily offered to provide carrots for free for 1 year for cultivation. But he was rejected just like that. And now, also for the soul skill, he worshipped Master Hu Jiu. You must know that in this world, a person can only worship one teacher in a lifetime. There is a saying that one day is a teacher, and a lifetime is a father. This is a deep relationship between teacher and disciple. Since the apprenticeship, Hu Jiu consciously provided his own cultivation carrot for Xiao Waoqi's cultivation use. Why? Because self-created soul skills can be inherited. Oscar is good. He just wants to learn his spiral pill without paying anything. Is it possible? Not to mention anything else, it was Tang San by his side. If he hadn't provided some key skills to allow him to successfully create spiral pills, maybe he wouldn't even teach Tang San. Little San, what would you do if you encountered someone planning your spirit ability? Facing Oscar's request, Hu Jiu didn't answer. Instead he turned his head and asked Tang San, seek the inheritor of the family's ancestral property, kill. Tang San said in a low voice with a cold face. A good self-created spirit skill can make a family prosperous. This is the consensus of the Douluo continent. In Tang San's mind, self-created spirit skills are equivalent to cultivating exercises, and as a Tang sect disciple in his previous life, if an outsider wants to learn it. As for the sect practice, apart from worshipping the sect, the others are regarded as enemies, and the way the Tang sect treats the enemies is also very simple. Kill without mercy. As soon as Tang San said these words, everyone present was dumbfounded except for Hu Jiu. Isn't it? Because Oscar asked Hu Jiu to pass on his spirit skills. If you don't want it, it's over. Why is Tang San so murderous? Tang San, you. Xiao Wu looked at Tang San hesitantly. For so many years, Tang San has always been a good-tempered person in her heart. Many times, she bullied him in disgrace. This is just a helpless smile. His temper is too good. But now the sudden murderous look of Ling Ran made Xiao Wu bewildered, as if she didn't know him. Hu Jiu held Xiao Wu's hand and rubbed it. He knew it would be like this. Oscar, did you hear what Tang San said? I advise you, some thoughts are not allowed to happen casually. The consequences are very serious. Looking at Oscar lightly, Hu Jiu sneered disdainfully. If you don't teach, don't teach. What are you talking about? So scary. My heart almost jumps out of fear. Oscar's funny hands held his heart, and he started to be disgusting again, looking very mindless. But deep in his mind, he was extremely angry. full of jealousy, not only hating Hu Jiu, but also Tang San. He didn't expect that they just wanted to learn a spirit skill. Their reaction would be so great, especially when Tang San's murderer Sora rushed towards him. He felt like he was about to suffocate. Hey, don't take it too seriously. Xiao is still young and doesn't know the rules of the Spirit Master world, so don't blame him. Damubei patted Oscar's shoulder with a pretentious gesture and laughed at him. Hu Jiu explained, "Boss, what are the rules of the Spirit Master world? Did I really say something I shouldn't have said?" Oscar looked at Damubei curiously, his face innocent. In the Spirit Master world, because of the characteristics that self-created spirit skills can be learned and inherited, everyone will be very strict. There will be serious precautions for those who want to learn spirit skills, and it is even possible to become enemies, because they will think that you want to steal their spirit skills, especially in a big family. Damubei explained to everyone. Damubei was very disdainful of Oscar's actions just now. A muddy leg is a mud leg, and he doesn't even know this. The sense of superiority as a big family is reflected at this time, so it's like this. I really didn't know there was such a rule. Oscar looked innocently at the crowd and explained, "I just saw Xiao, Tang San and the others knew how to spiral pills and thought they could teach it casually. Forget it, you can do it yourself." Hu Jiu waved his hand boringly, gave Tang San a look, then took Xiao's hand and turned to leave behind him. Mahanjan followed obediently. Hu Jiu didn't care whether Oscar knew the rules of the Soul Master world, as long as he didn't provoke him. As for the rules of the Soul Master world, it's none of his business. He can teach him if he wants to, or not if he doesn't want to. It depends on his mood. Originally, Hu Jiu thought that what happened today would be over. However, he did not expect Oscar to be so bold. After training the next day, Oscar was ridiculed by Mahanjan that his wonderful sausage was no match for Hu Jiu's carrots. Oscar blurted out a sentence. "What's wrong with my spells? Look at Hu Jiu's. You think his spells are good? If they are good, why does he never read them?" Yeah. Hu Jiu, who was playing with Xiao, narrowed his eyes. This is the third time. As the saying goes, there are only three things. No matter how generous Hu Jiu is, he is also annoyed at this moment. For the first time, Flend let them eat sausages. Oscar proudly recited his spell and cooperated with the disgusting man's squatting movements, making Hu Jiu want to beat him up. Yesterday, Oscar asked him for the spiral pill soul skill, which made Hu Jiu feel disgusted. And today, he's not just repenting and attacking his spell. Hu Jiu's mind moved. His body swelled instantly, his transformation skills were activated, his figure flashed, and teleportation appeared in front of Oscar. "What gave you the illusion and made you provoke me again and again?" Grabbing Oscar's neck, he lifted him up easily with his big palm. "Ho ho ho ho." Oscar stomped his feet in midair, slapped Hu Jiu with both hands, and his breathing was blocked, causing his face to turn the color of pig liver. "Hu Jiu, what are you doing? Xiao is our companion. How could you treat him like this?" Damubei let out a tiger roar. With evil eyes possessed by a white tiger, he instantly came to Hu Jiu, grabbed his palm, and said. Fortunately, Damubei wasn't stupid. He didn't dare to attack Hu Jiu at this time. He just wanted to break his palm apart. Otherwise, the white tiger is in danger. "Companion? That's yours. I've never recognized him." Hu Jiu sneered and glanced at Damubei. His hands were strained, but he still didn't relax. "Don't say it's him. It's you. I don't even recognize it." Hu Jiu didn't say this thanks to the old days. Jiang Koan gave a Logia reward. There have been a lot of reminders recently, so let's watch the third watch today. Be patient. The plot is a bit brain burning these days, especially when it comes to dealing with the relationship between the Shrek people. I want to write it well, so I write it very slowly. Chapter 84 Punishment. Ninth brother. No, Xiao just didn't hold the door. Don't be impulsive. From Hu Jiu grabbing Austin's neck and lifting him up to Damubei's coming to persuade him. The whole time only took a few breaths, so that Mahanjan didn't even have a brain to react. When he reacted, he immediately persuaded him. Mahanjan feels that Oscar's brain is getting worse and worse recently. Anyone with a discerning eye can see at a glance that Hu Jiu is the leader of their group. It's good now, make brother Jiu angry. Humph. Hu Jiu snorted coldly, pushed away Damu Bei who was still fighting with his palm, threw Oscar heavily on the ground, then lifted his foot and kicked him out several meters away. Damu Bei's face could not be given, but Ma Hanjin was different. As someone who had just joined their group, he had to give face, no matter what point. If you want to know what the Lao Tzu mantra is or not, then I will tell you. Grandpa has a big carrot. How are you satisfied with this spell? Hu Jiu sneered at Oscar, full of disdain. If you don't have the ability, you want to do evil things, is it useful? You cough. You dare to hit me? Oscar gasped, with fear and anger on his face. How dare he? This is in the academy. Isn't he afraid of the teacher? Don't you dare to see it? I advise you that some people are not something you can provoke. Next time, it won't be as simple as a kick. Hu Jiu, you're too stingy. Ziao was just joking. Are you so serious? Damu Bei looked at him seriously, his eyes full of anger. This Hu Jiu is so arrogant that he doesn't even take him seriously. No matter what, he is also a senior who came here for several years. That's right, I'm such a stingy person. Hu Jiu raised her head and took this comment as a compliment. Whoever makes him uncomfortable, he makes whoever more uncomfortable. I will tell the dean truthfully about this matter. You can wait for your punishment. Damu Bei was pissed off by Hu Jiu's flirtatious attitude, and his eyes were filled with evil spirits. Boss Day, there's no need for this. It's just a little conflict between classmates. Why bother with the dean? If the dean finds out, neither Brother Ninth nor Ziao can escape punishment. Mahanjan persuaded anxiously. Mahanjan knew very well about his teacher's temper. He couldn't rub the sand in his eyes. If he really found out, the consequences would be very serious, and he might even be expelled. Boss Day, this is a matter between our students. It's a bit too much to tell the dean. Tang San also came to Damu Bei to persuade. Hey, I said why you are like this? Isn't it just a fight? I think when my little sister was invincible in the academy, no one dared to tell the teacher. They said that the teachers who told the teacher were all softballs, and you were softballs. Is it? Ziao Wu raised her head and made a face at him proudly. Ziao Wu, don't talk. When Tang San saw Ziao Wu calling him a softie, Damu Bei became even more angry, but when he thought of the strengths of the two sides, he was stunned to endure it. If you want me not to tell the teacher, then let him, and Ziao apologize. Damu Bei looked at Tang San with a firm tone. Tang San, let Ziao Jiu apologize. This is impossible. He didn't forget that when he was at Notting College, Hu Jiu used to lift the hammer at every turn. Why do you want us to apologize? Although Ziao Jiu did it, it was Oscar's open mouth, and he deserved it. Ziao Wu said unconvinced. Then I'll tell the teacher to go. Okay, what's there to say? He wants to sue the teacher and let him go. The big deal is to beat him up. Hu Jiu held Tang San, who was still trying to speak, and said nothing. You threatened me? Damu Bei's evil eyes flashed, and he couldn't hold it any longer. A tiger roar sounded like Hu Jiu rushing towards him. Hey, that's right. If there is a fight, let's fight together. Let's not talk about anyone. Hu Jiu laughed, raised his fist, and rushed up. Damu Bei was in a state of being possessed by his martial spirit, and Hu Jiu was in a state of change and expansion. The two of them were like savage men. Their spirit skills were useless, and they just punched me and kicked me. Don't fight. Don't fight. Ziao Wu rushed forward excitedly and joined the battle. Seeing her kicking in the east and the west, she was literally attacking Damu Bei with Hu Jiu. How could she seem to persuade him to fight? Tang San shook his head, feeling very tired. Then he also shouted loudly and rushed up with ghost shadow fans. Don't fight. The teacher will come later. Tang San was really pulling a fight, but the target he was pulling was a bit wrong, as if he was always pulling New Bay. Mahanjan wanted to fight, but he didn't dare to step forward, so he could only keep shouting beside him to stop them. Oscar also wanted them to stop, but he was a food type soul master, and he was more than enough. A quarter of an hour later. I'm not convinced. Hu Jiu proudly looked at Dame Yu Bei, who was lying on the ground, stretched out and kicked. Hey, are you convinced? Xiao Wu also put her hands on her hips and kicked her proudly. I'm not convinced. You don't talk about it. PFFT. Dame Yu Bei gritted his teeth and shouted in dissatisfaction, probably because he was so angry that he didn't catch his breath. He was actually dizzy. You guys are very courageous. In just a few days, you actually dare to fight in the academy. Who gave you the courage? The next day, Hu Jiu, Xiao Wu, Tang San, Dame Yu Bei, Mahangjin, Oscar and the others stood in a row. Flender was so angry that he raised his beard and spittle, spraying a group of people to the point of drooping their heads. Can't lift it up, President. I was attacked by them. Dame Yu Bei said in disbelief. It was he who moved first. Hu Jiu pointed at Dame Yu Bei. He hit Xiao Ao. Xiao Ao scolds me. Stop, run all around the village for me, and wait until you realize what's wrong. And when will you come back? Flender shouted, and the air pressure unique to Soul Saint emerged, forcibly suppressing the quarrel of a group of people. A group of people were obedient and ran away. Flender's aura was so powerful that it was scary to stay here. After they left, Flender held his forehead and suddenly felt a pain in his head. Haha, boss, now that you know that there are too many talented students, it's not easy to discipline them. Xiao Walqi teased him beside him. There is no peace of mind for these little guys. Flender sighed, a kind of happy trouble. Each of these students is very talented, but because of the talent, they are all too arrogant. Even that honest looking Tang San is not a good character. Hey, I don't know what the boss is bothering about. They are all monsters. Since they are called monsters, how can they lose their temper? Besides, since they are so energetic, then throw them to the big soul arena and wait for the experience. After seeing the cruelty inside, they don't have the heart to think about other things. Xiao Walqi smiled, an evil smile on his mouth. Wouldn't it be good? They are all just children. Flender's eyes lit up, and he said indifferently. Xiao Walqi, this shameless dog thing. Chapter 85. The Great Soul Arena. The punishment was over, and Flanders called them together. For the sake of you realizing your mistake this time, I won't hold anyone accountable. I'll go back to rest and take you to a fun place at night. Flender looked at everyone kindly, with small eyes. It's all cunning, doesn't mean anything. Seeing Flender's expression, everyone shuddered. They made such a big mistake. How could the dean let them go so generously? Night. Could it be that place? Hu Jiu pondered for a while, and instantly had a guess in his heart. After lunch, Hu Jiu was dragged by Xiao Walqi to his training ground to practice the Vajra body point. Since Xiao Walqi became his teacher, Hu Jiu's life has not been so good. It was fine in the past, since there was an on-hook panel to help him improve anyway, and the hard-working practice was not fast enough. Except for the time when he created his own soul skills, the rest were just playing fish. Anyway, no one cared about him. He didn't cultivate with all his heart and spent the whole day with Xiao Wu fooling around. But after apprenticing to Xiao Walqi, Hu Jiu's miserable days came. As long as he knew that he was free, Xiao Walqi would bring him to his side for extremely hard training, leaving Hu Jiu with no time to be lazy. It was miserable. Especially after seeing Hu Jiu's extremely high cultivation talent for King Kong's incorrupt body. He even gave him oppressive training. Anyway, Hu Jiu's fourth ring spirit skill is a full recovery skill. Even if it collides, one skill can recover. Even if one skill doesn't work, then one more point as a horizontal training skill. King Kong is not bad, and it was originally trained by hard work. It is a blasphemy to leave such a good cultivation talent unused. Therefore, no matter how much Hu Jiu complained, he never escaped the fate of being squeezed by Xiao Walqi. Teacher, I can't take it anymore. You will kill your precious disciple if you beat him again. Hu Jiu screamed and looked at Xiao Wuji. Xiao Walqi held a wooden stick with a thick wrist in his hand and kept greeting him. No matter how Hu Jiu jumped up and down, he could not pick out the wooden stick to beat him. Haha, good apprentice. Hold on a little longer, and you will reach 1000 soon. Don't worry, the teacher is measured, and won't break you. Xiao Wuji cheered Hu Jiu loudly. The movement of the above did not stop, and still greeted Hu Jiu with a stick point. Suddenly, just when Hu Jiu was about to reach the limit, his movement suddenly stopped, and his feet twisted into a strange shape, actually dodging Zhao Walqi's stick for the first time. Hey. Zhao Wuji frowned and stretched out his hand again. This time, his speed increased significantly. The stick left an after image in his hand, and the stick itself was about to touch Hu Jiu's skin point, but at this moment, Hu Jiu's body seemed to violate the laws of his body. His body was like a boneless earthworm, slipping away from the stick again. Hey, teacher, you can't hit me now. Hu Jiu's complacent laughter sounded, but he was overjoyed. It turned out that just now, his phantom evasion skill finally successfully broke through to the first level. At that moment, a feeling of how to dodge an attack appeared out of thin air in his mind. The muscles all over his body shook, and then reorganized to make his reaction. Suddenly got up. Just before Zhao Walqi's two sticks, his mind had not yet reacted, and his body had already acted spontaneously, dodging the attack in a strange way. Zhao. Jiu, what's the situation with you? Tell me quickly whether your phantom dodging has started. Zhao Wuji is not an idiot, he just reacted after being stunned. Yes, teacher, I have practiced phantom dodging. Hu Jiu smiled. Teacher, hit me again, and see if you can beat me. Hey, little guys looking for a lottery, come, teacher, I will fulfill you. Don't think that, if you learn a soul skill, teacher, you can't do anything about it, snapped Zhao. Walqi couldn't care less about his joy, and his hands moved faster. This time, no matter how Hu Jiu dodged, the wooden stick hit Hu Jiu accurately. Teacher, stop, I was wrong, I don't dare anymore. With a wooden stick, familiarity struck again, causing Hu Jiu to jump in pain. Hahaha, good boy, I have something. After the training, Zhao Walqi looked at Hu Jiu with satisfaction. He had 2 soul skills. In just a few days, Hu Jiu not only became a King Kong invincible body, but he also practiced phantom dodge, which he had never practiced before. This kind of talent surprised Zhao Walqi by surprise. Zhao. Jiu, I still have a lot of soul skills here, why don't I pass the shockwave to you too? Your attack methods are still too few. Zhao Wuji looked at Hu Jiu happily, and immediately took it out. Soul skills, teacher, wait, I don't need spirit skills for the time being. I think 2 spirit skills are already my limit, and when I get to know them all, if I'll learn new ones, don't give them to me, so as not to be distracted. Hu Jiu resisted the temptation, and waved his hands to refuse. He also wanted to learn new skills, but he didn't allow him to hang up. Pointers on hook panel has a disadvantage. Once it is placed, it can't be taken off again. At this time, Hu Jiu regretted a little. Why did he want to be greedy for Tang San's hidden weapons? The watching skill is in front of him, but he can't learn it. Well, that's fine, then I'll give it to you later. Zhao Walqi nodded with satisfaction, and praised. I can't tell, you are quite stable. That's right, disciple, I've acted prudently all my life, how could I not be able to distinguish the seriousness of the matter? Hu Jiu raised his chin proudly and calmly accepted Zhao Walqi's compliment. Fuck off, if you're stable, you don't need me to urge you to cultivate. Zhao Wuji scolded with a laugh, as if he was going to kick Hu Jiu. In the evening, after Hu Jiu and others had dinner, they naturally gathered in the playground. It can be seen from their clan that the scene has been divided into 2 groups. One is headed by Hu Jiu, plus Zhao Wu, Tang San, and Mahanjan. The other is that Damu Bei is the leader, and Oscar is by his side. The 2 teams stood together, each playing their own way, and the 2 sides did not seem to have the slightest intersection. This is a complete confrontation. When Flender came to see this scene, he was stunned for a moment. A trace of trouble flashed in his eyes, and then returned to normal. Come with me. I'll take you to a good place today. As if he didn't see the scene in front of him, Flender cleared his throat, and took the lead with a serious face. Behind them, Hu Jiu and the others looked at each other, and followed Flender's footsteps, as if nothing had happened. After leaving the academy, Flender's speed immediately increased, and he didn't even use his soul power. As soon as he saw his toes on the ground, his body fluttered far and wide. This pose is really cool and fast. I was careless, the head iron did not flash. What 5000 plus more? 10,000 rewards plus more fragrance. Thank you Landmo for the reward point ahem. I owe these 2 more first. Another update tomorrow. Another update the day after. Well, just source purple. Arrange. Chapter 86 day MUBAIN-039. S negative score. As they walked, Hu Jiu realized that he seemed to have guessed correctly. The route that Flender took them was clearly Soto City. Soto City was not far from Shrek Academy, and within an hour, they arrived at the south gate of Soto City. Soto City at night is more lively than in the daytime. There are small vendors everywhere, and all kinds of food, and play are dizzying. Especially Xiao Wu. It was the first time she saw such a lively scene. Her eyes lit up. She leaned in here to take a look, then ran over there to take a look. If Hu Jiu was not very familiar with her taste, she would have almost lost it. Seeing Xiao Wu's never before seen appearance, Damu Bei's eyes flashed a trace of disdain. Xiao Wu, go. Hu Jiu shook his head helplessly and quickly stepped forward to hold Xiao Wu, otherwise he would be lost. Xiao Jiu, let's go shopping here later. I didn't expect that the night in Soto City would be so lively. There are many things that are not available during the day. Even though Hu Jiu was pulling, Xiao Wu was still interested. Swinging from side to side, the scorpion braid behind her swayed melodically. Okay, I'll bring you to play every day from now on. Hu Jiu fondly touched Xiao Wu's scorpion braid, but she was thinking about when to take it apart. Okay, it's almost time now. Let's sit next to us first. Flender, who was leading the way, came to a tea shed and stopped and said. 7 people gathered around a simple table, and Flender was extremely stingy and ordered a cup of tea foam for them. President, isn't it? You just invite us to drink this? Hu Jiu frowned at the TMO Xingzi in front of him and instantly lost hope of drinking it, and Xiao Wu next to him was similar, frowning at the teacup that was not washed cleanly. The stains are instantly far away. Stop talking nonsense. It's good to have this. In order to train you guys, why don't you drink this? Flender took a sip without caring. I brought you here today mainly to go to that place, pointing to a huge building not far away. Flanders said solemnly. Everyone looked in the direction of Flender's finger, and a building with a height of 100 meters was crawling like a giant beast at night. On it, the lights flickered, making people unable to see the specific situation. President, where is that place? Tang San asked curiously. Great Soul Arena. Flender said lightly. It turns out that there is the Great Soul Arena. I heard that it is very fun, right? Xiao Wu immediately became interested when she heard that it was this place. Hu Jiu had told her about how it was fun in it. Make her yearn for it. It's fun. It's true to say it's fun, but if you want to have fun, it depends on your ability. Damu Bei looked at Xiao Wu with a chuckle. He was looking forward to seeing these few. Will the so-called genius go inside and pee his pants? HMPH, you bad-eyed guy told me that I have no ability, and I don't know who was thrown on the back by me, and it was twice, a little bit. Xiao Wu made a face at him, mocking said, you, humph, I don't have the same knowledge as you. There are many stronger than me in the Great Soul Arena. If you have the ability, you can beat them all. Damu Bei's heavy pupils flashed a trace of anger, but considering that I was weak and had no choice but to endure it, okay, let me introduce to you. That is the Great Soul Arena. Your mission is also very simple, as long as you get me the Silver Dao Soul badge before graduation. Damu Bei explained to them what's inside the situation. After glancing at the people who were clearly seated, Flender handed over the task to Damu Bei. It seemed that he was still thinking about the peaceful coexistence between Hu Jiu and his group of students. Yes, Dean. Damu Bei was overjoyed when he heard such an order. What is this? This is because the Dean valued him. Otherwise, why would he leave this opportunity to him? The Great Soul Arena, as the name suggests, is the place where spirit masters fight for their souls. The level of the spirit masters, or the number of spirit rings, cannot represent a person's actual combat power, and real battles are obtained from the Great Soul Arena. Only by comparing one's achievements can one show one's true strength. There are 8 levels of badges in the Great Soul Arena. 1 is Iron Soul Badge, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Purple Gold, Sapphire, Ruby, and Diamond. These 8 level badges are common to all major battlefields in the whole continent, and they are also symbols of strength. In the Great Soul Battle Arena, after winning a victory, you will get the Iron Dao Soul badge, and at the same time you will get a point. When the points reach a certain level, you will be promoted. Then, how are the points calculated? Tang San asked curiously. It's very simple. You get 1 point for winning a game, and 1 point for losing a game. If you can win 5 games in a row, you will get 1 point for each win. When the winning streak reaches 10 times, after that, you will get 100 points for each victory. It takes 100 points to be promoted from the Iron Dao Spirit badge to the Bronze Dao Spirit badge, and 1000 points to be promoted from the Bronze Dao Spirit badge to the Silver Dao Spirit badge. Take your time. What? A complicated algorithm. Stopping Daemubei's explanation, Tang San pondered for a moment before he understood. Little San, you're photographed. Hu Jiu patted him on the shoulder with a smile. As long as you can keep winning, it doesn't matter what rules and algorithms you use. Why think about it so much? Heh, I still want to win all the time. You're probably thinking too much. I'm not afraid to tell you. Do you know how many points I have now? I have participated in a total of 16 competitions, won 4 times in total, and lost 12 times. Now the points are lose 8 points. Still want to win all the time. Stop dreaming. Daemubei looked at Hu Jiu contemptuously. What if you're so good? Maybe you won't be as good as me by then. The reason why Daemubei was so confident was because there was a rule in the Great Soul Arena. When participating in the soul battle, the opponents had to be of the same level. Of course, the challenge beyond the level did not count point in the same level. There is still a big difference in combat power. Hu Jiu is now 41 soul sect. If he is lucky, he may encounter an opponent of the same level as him, but under normal circumstances, this possibility it rarely appears, and many times, the opponents encountered are more likely to be in the late soul sect, that is, 48th and 9th level point. Of course, there is another point that Daemubei is most confident about, because Hu Jiu is a food type spirit master, he can beat himself. That is because he is the first rank in Hu Jiu, but he is facing the same rank of fighting type. What about the Soul Master? Just relying on that spiral pill. Just by that hammer. Oh, by the way, it seems that the Great Soul Arena can't use weapons, so Hu Jiu wanted to win all the time with just one spiral pill soul skill. Is it possible? I don't know if I can win. I only know that I won't lose my points to a negative number. Hu Jiu looked at Daemubei with a light smile. The smile in his eyes could not be concealed. Besides, I a food type soul master. Fighting is not my specialty. You let me a food type soul master to compare your combat power. Are you out of your mind? Chapter 87 Disguise. You can't even beat me as a food type soul master. You can't beat the food department. Hu Jiu's words kept replaying in Daemubei's ears for a time. Daemubei's heart was filled with various emotions, including humiliation, resentment, and jealousy. Could it be that I, Daemubei, are a waste like a lost dog? Is this my destiny? No, I don't accept it. I don't believe it. Daemubei roared in his heart, and his heart became firm. Hu Jiu, I will definitely defeat you. Daemubei suddenly stood up, with fierce fighting intent burning in his eyes. But I'll wait. Seeing that Daemubei still hadn't lost his mind under his vicious tongue, Hu Jiu was stunned. Only at this moment did he realize that he seemed to underestimate him too much. After all, he is the god of war in the future. How can he be defeated so easily? However, if you want to beat yourself, it will never be possible. With his cultivation speed, he can suppress Daemubei by 1 realm now, and he can suppress 2 realms in the future. Let's go. The time is up, and I'll tell you what to do when we arrive at the Great Soul Arena. At this moment, Flender stood up and said to them, looking up. It turned out that before you knew it, the Great Soul Arena on the opposite side was already brightly lit, and there were many people in the vicinity digging into it. Many had excited and expectant smiles on their faces. Boss, I heard that you can gamble inside, right? Recently, because of the purchase of Hu Jiu's cultivation carrots, Mahanjan's face was cleaner than his face, and he didn't even have the money to solve the martial arts problem. So poor and changing, he thought of gambling. Gambling can only be played in the main soul arena. Don't think about it. I advise you, it's best not to think about those who have nothing, and be careful to put out your pants. Daimyo looked at Mahanjan and warned faintly, okay, then, I'll ask. Mahanjan breathed out in disappointment. He didn't know the disadvantages of gambling. As a person who often went to and from the weeds, he was well informed and knew that the Great Soul Arena was nothing charity hall. The water inside is very deep, and he was just asking out of curiosity. Little Mayor, you're short of money. Hu Jiu looked at Mahanjan's bewildered look and instantly realized that this kid was holding back. Ninth. Brother, what do you think? Mahanjan looked at him resentfully. If it weren't for the fact that he bought a cultivation carrot, how could he hold back like this? Hu Jiu was terrified by Mahanjan's eyes. Fat man, don't look at me with that kind of eyes. Isn't it just money? Brother, take it first. It's not enough for me to have here. Hu Jiu took out a handful of gold soul coins from the storage bracer and stuffed it into it without counting. We suffer, no one can suffer, the child is not. Brother, you are my own brother. Don't worry, when I get rich in the future, I will definitely pay you back double. No, 10 times. Mahanjan took the gold soul coin with bright eyes, patted his chest and promised loudly, it's not easy to get rich, Mahanjan. In the Great Soul Arena, as long as you beat one game, you can get 10 gold soul coins. So if you want to make money, go all out. Hearing their conversation, Frandy cocked the corners of his mouth and turned to tell them some exciting news, hearing that participating in the competition could actually get gold soul coins. Not only Mahanjan was excited, but even Tang San clenched his fists quietly, expressing the belief that he would win. He is short of money. Mahanjan is okay, he just started buying Hu Jiu's carrots. He doesn't owe much, but he is different. For 4 years, if 1 gold soul coin is calculated a day, that is more than 1,000 gold soul coins. Where does he go to pay such a large sum of money? But in this place, he saw hope. As long as Hu Jiu said that he wins every time, he can pay it off sooner or later. And the big deal is to participate in a few more games. When they were about to enter the Great Soul Arena, Hu Jiu suddenly pulled them out. Wait, did you guys go in like this before? Why, is there anything wrong with going in like this? Daimyo stopped, not understanding what Hu Jiu was talking about. Disguise. Look at our conspicuous figure. If we win a few games in the Great Soul Battle, will it instantly attract other people's ideas? After Hu Jiu's reminder, everyone immediately reacted. Yes, they are not very old, not to mention the oldest Daimyo, 14 years old. Not too big or not, it is not a big problem. Oscar is similar. Although he is young, he is full of beards, and his real age is not easy to distinguish. But Hu Jiu, Xiao Wu, and Tang San couldn't. The 3 of them looked like half-old children. No matter how old they were, it was useless. If people find out their real age and spirit power level, let's not say whether it will cause trouble, but Hu Jiu doesn't want to be too conspicuous, so it's not good to have too much talent. It's inconvenient to even participate in a big soul battle. Hey, it's really annoying. Hu Jiu said with a sad face. Everyone never seen such a brazen person. At this moment, they had a new understanding of Hu Jiu's face. Well, Hu Jiu is right, but I haven't thought about it carefully. It seems that your training plan will be put on hold for a while. Flender nodded, agreeing with Hu Jiu's statement. There is no way. At the age of 11, Hu Jiu has reached the realm of the 41st soul sect. There are also Xiao Wu at the 31st level, Tang San at the 33rd level, and the mutant martial artist Mahanjan, who is innately full of spirit power. Oscar, even Daimyo was a rare genius. If the Great Soul Arena really notices them, even the Soul Sage himself may not be able to keep it. You must know that the Great Soul Arena can be regarded as a special force. It can be said to be the largest force besides the 2 major empires and the Spirit Hall. However, the Great Soul Arena has always been very low-key, and the 2 empires are fighting against each other. There is the Spirit Hall inserted in the middle, so that they have no time to pay attention to the Great Spirit Arena point. If the Great Soul Arena finds and takes a fancy to these talented students, what can he do? Therefore, Flender would rather give up letting them enter the Great Soul Arena than let them be in the slightest danger. President, this is not necessary, but we need to do some disguise. Hu Jiu smiled lightly, took out a handful of red carrots and explained, this is my second spirit ring skill. You have seen the effect. It can change a person's body shape and appearance, and even disguise the spirit in spirit ring, but it can only change the appearance of the spirit in spirit ring. There is no spirit ring skill. The effect of this spirit ability? Others were still shocked by the peculiar effect of Hu Jiu's second spirit ring ability. Mahanjan's eyes were indeed shining. If he used Brother Nine's carrot to turn himself into a handsome guy, he would find a woman later. Can it be free of money? You know, when a person is handsome to a certain extent, many women are willing to post it backwards. Thinking of this, Mahanjan put on a two-faced face and came to Hu Jiu's side. Ninth brother, how much does this carrot cost? I'll buy one. No, buy 10. Fuck off. Hu Jiu kicked Mahanjan away with one kick. You don't need to guess what this dead fat man is thinking. If he wants to use his spirit ability to find a woman, it is impossible. Point. When he didn't have this idea, he had it long ago. Point. Besides, isn't there Xiao here? With such a beautiful person by her side, those vulgar fans don't even take a look at her. Moreover, this motherfucker is only 11 years old, so his body will not allow it. Chapter 88. 9 Dances Formation. Come on, one for each person. Make yourself what you want. Hu Jiu smiled and looked at the few people. With a thought, his body began to grow taller, his muscles swelled up, and his face became an ordinary one. Tough guy. He exudes the majestic breath that is unique to men. I'll come too. Xiao ate the carrot and turned into a carrot. Her slender white thighs became taller, and her figure became more mature, especially her face shape. Xiao made fine adjustments. The bridge of her nose was raised, and the corners of her eyes were elongated. The whole person exudes a charming charm. Point. In particular, a shawl with long hair spread out, adding a brighter look. That's good. Hu Jiu smiled and embraced Xiao in his arms, and the rippling thoughts flashed in his heart instantly made him happy. Point. Tang San also acted without saying a word, turning into a tall and thin ordinary man, making people forget that at a glance in the crowd. Point. Mahanjan was rather irritable, but he turned into a handsome man in wild clothes. He proudly lifted his shoulder-length short hair, made a handsome gesture, and asked Hu Jiu, "Ninth brother, am I handsome?" After the transformation of the four of them was completed, Hu Jiu looked at Daemube and Oscar and asked, "Do you want it?" Daemube glanced at Hu Jiu, as if he wanted to see if he was sincere or not. Point. It's a pity that Hu Jiu just thought that his fighting spirit was not bad, so he gave it casually, with no other meaning. Point. Besides, Flender is still in front of you. It's not good to be too obvious. I'll try. Unable to see what Hu Jiu was thinking, he simply didn't want to. He went up to take the carrot and started to transform. Point. In the blink of an eye, Daemube had become an adult man with a body shape similar to Hu Jiu, but a rougher face. Point. Oscar stepped forward with a smile and took the carrot unceremoniously. In an instant, a handsome young man with a feminine temperament appeared in everyone's eyes. Okay, now we can go in. Seeing that everyone had changed, Hu Jiu clapped his hands and said to them, "Hu Jiu, wait, give me a carrot of your transformation, and I'll help you evaluate the effect of the skill." Flender's face was serious, and his eyes were full of integrity, as if he was looking for Hu Jiu to transform. Carrots, it's really just to help him experiment with skills. Okay. Hu Jiu handed one over without hesitation. Didn't he just want to transform? He understood. The next moment, Flender also turned into a burly man with surging muscles. Turning around, he calmly led a group of people into the Great Soul Arena. Point. Registration. Registration for the competition. All processes are completed in one go, simple and efficient. Point. It is worth mentioning that the golden soul coins that Hu Jiu lent to Mahanjan just now, in order to complete the registration, Mahanjan spent almost all of it at once. Point. This made Mahanjan extremely painful, and he felt ruthless in his heart. I must earn this money back later, otherwise the plan tonight will be in vain. Xiao Jiu, I just inquired about it. In the Great Soul Arena, there is still a double competition system. How about we create a combination? I have already thought about the name. It's called the 9 Dances Combination. What do you think? After Kung Fu, Xiao Wu happily ran to Hu Jiu and said cheerfully, "It's okay to set up a combination, but you are very confident in me. You know, if our combination is established, we will only have to wait for the competition system of the Soul Sect and other ranks. Are you not afraid that we will lose the game?" Hu Jiu smiled bitterly. Did he really regard himself as a battle-type soul master? I'm sorry, he may not be able to do it. What are you afraid of? Have you forgotten our martial arts fusion skill? With this skill, we are invincible even in Soul Sect level battles. Xiao Wu raised her neck and said proudly, "Idiot, that's our trump card. How can we use it easily? Remember, unless there are special occasions, we are not allowed to use martial arts fusion skills in the future." Hu Jiu slapped Xiao Wu on the forehead angrily, and she was pitiful. Besides, the dean brought us here to improve our combat ability. If we use martial arts fusion skills, we will not be able to exercise. Hu Jiu agreed with Flender's approach on this point level, sometimes not completely equal to strength, with rich combat experience, naturally and MT have strength, but do not understand the fighting spirit masters a different point in terms of cultivation. He can use the on-hook panel to help him improve, but his combat experience is not enough. The only way to improve his combat experience is to practice more just like his teacher Hu Jiu. Because of his rich combat experience, he escaped from the hands of 16 soul emperors of the same level, and these 16 people were also strong at the level of the Bishop of the Spirit Hall. This kind of achievement, enough to make Xiao Walqi proud for a lifetime. That's fine, but I still want to form a team with you. Xiao Wu looked at Hu Jiu with big eyes. Weak and pitiful. What's the matter? The combination can be built first, and when my spirit skill level increases, we will sign up for the competition. Hu Jiu smiled and stroked Xiao Wu's head. Anyway, we have money, so let's just play with it. This is good. Then let's hurry up and set up our 9 dance group. Although we can't fight with Xiao Jiu for the time being, but being able to build a group together is enough for Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu excitedly pulled Hu Jiu and went straight to the staff, impatient to build their combination. Hu Jiu naturally has no opinion on this. But, isn't the 9 dances group too low? How about our group's name is 95 Supreme? This is domineering. No, let's call it the 9 dances group. That's the name that sounds good. Xiao Wu said stubbornly. What is the 95 Supreme? I'm Xiao Wu's dance, not the 5 of Xiao Wu's. Little 3, little 5. Why should I be at the back? No way. Okay, as you like. Fortunately, Hu Jiu didn't care much about it. It was just a group name. Whatever it was this time, they didn't change Xiao Wu's dance to 5 as in the original book. Of course, this was also related to Hu Jiu's reminder. Otherwise, I don't know if there would be any mistakes. When they just formed the group, the one-on-one soul fighting competition here has already begun. Among them, Hu Jiu's name happened to be there in the 5th session. Haha, I'm going to fight. You guys are waiting for me. Hu Jiu waved to Xiao Wu and the others, and ran to the soul fighting area. Come on, we will watch you. Xiao Wu waved behind him. Don't worry, I will definitely win. Hu Jiu turned around and waved. He is really not afraid to fight against spirit masters of the same level. It just so happened that the teacher had been training hard in the past few days, so take this opportunity to vent your emotions. Hu Jiu felt that in just a few days, he had been influenced by that fighting madman, Xiao Walqi. Otherwise, why would a peace-loving person like him feel excited when he heard the battle? Haven't they avoided this before? Sure. Enough. I was taught badly by the teacher. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 Fighting Soul Cultivation. Soon, under the leadership of the staff, Hu Jiu came to the 5th fighting spirit platform. The Next ones to appear will be 2 Soul Sect Masters. They are Hu Jiu, who has a carrot weapon spirit, and Battle Spirit Sect Tire Hammer, who has won 2 consecutive games, and has a weapon spirit hammer. Whether it is the little 9 brothers who have just arrived to win the game, or whether the Iron 2 Hammers who have won 2 games in a row continue to win, we will wait and see. Next, we have invited our 2 Soul Sect Masters to come on stage to start their performances. Let us warmly welcome them. On the soul fighting stage, a handsome and mature host was doing his best to explain, and soon the audience under the stage became excited. Originally, when they heard that Hu Jiu's martial spirit was a carrot, they were a little disappointed, but they didn't expect that Hu Jiu, who just showed up, showed a big and strong muscle, and now they didn't dare to underestimate it. Hu Jiu is gone. Now Hu Jiu has a height of nearly 3 meters. Just one arm is thicker than an adult's thigh, and his muscles are bulging high, which is scary to look at. If nothing else, this muscle alone has already shown his impressive strength. Standing opposite Hu Jiu, he was also a tall and strong young man, but standing in front of Hu Jiu, a non-human figure who used the transformation skills, he instantly became a little smaller. HMPH, what's the use of being so big? Your carrot martial soul is for chewing, right? Look at me, big hammer. Hey, don't worry, I'll be gentle with you later. Tire Hammer released his martial spirit, and then said to Hu Jiu triumphantly. Psychological tactics have been launched. Haha, it's not just a big hammer, I can have it too. I happen to have another hammer technique. I'll let you try it later. Hu Jiu released his martial spirit with a smile. While releasing his martial spirit, he directly activated the second spirit ring skill. Change. In just an instant, the carrot in Hu Jiu's hand turned into a big hammer exactly like the iron hammer in a burst of pink light. In fact, with Hu Jiu's spirit power control level, even if he didn't release his spirit, he could still use his spirit skills. However, Hu Jiu liked to keep his hands in everything, and of course, it was interesting to expose the means a little bit. This is my martial spirit. Seeing the change in Hu Jiu's martial spirit, Taiyuki instantly became cautious. I thought that compared with Hu Jiu, his spirit body was the biggest advantage, but now the advantage is gone. It seems that this battle has been treated well. Hey, not bad. Not to mention, the weight of your spirit is quite suitable for me. Hu Jiu weighed the 1.5 meter long sledgehammer and said with a light smile. According to his estimation, Tire Hammer's martial spirit weighs at least 500 kilograms. This weight is actually quite good, but it seems a little heavy for Tire Hammer. I saw Tire Hammer shouting loudly. The big iron hammer dragged the ground, lifted his footsteps, and rushed towards him like a bull. This momentum, if faced with other people, may still appear domineering and mighty, but in front of the 3-meter high Hu Jiu, it is almost like a child playing, and it looks very funny. Come on, let's fight for a hammer. Hu Jiu lightly lifted the hammer in his hand and rushed forward. Boom. The 2 big hammers collided with each other, making a deafening explosion. Taiyuki took 2 steps back, but Hu Jiu stood there and didn't move. Hey, compared to strength, you don't seem to be able to beat me. Hu Jiu laughed. HMPH, look at my number 1 spirit ability, strength increase. Taiyuki shouted in disapproval. His first spirit ring lit up. His aura changed, and there was a tendency to overpower Hu Jiu. Sure enough, it's not a battle type soul master, or that's not good. All skills are developed for combat. In this respect, I really have no advantage. Hu Jiu shook his head and moved the hammer in his hand, but he was the first to strike. It's good to come. Let you taste my power. Tire Hammer shouted, and turned with one hand. The big hammer in his hand met Hu Jiu at a very fast speed. Dang. Dang dang. Bang. Bang bang. In a series of consecutive collisions, Hu Jiu was slowly suppressed to the downwind. Looks like it's time to use that move. Hu Jiu's heart moved, and after fighting with Tire Hammer again, he immediately took a half step back, rolled up a big circle with the big iron hammer in his hand, and met Tire again. Hammer. This is the use of the random cloak hammer method. Although it is only one hammer, it can also compete with the iron 2 hammers in strength. Hey, this is the way to be happy. Hu Jiu took time to take a look during the reckless fight, and found that in the on-hook panel, the progress of his King Kong indestructible body on hook was accelerating in vain. Judging from its growth rate, it was actually twice as fast as before. This is the ultimate goal of his willingness to participate in the Great Soul Arena. It can not only increase combat experience, but also speed up the progress of skill training, which is the best of both worlds. What happened to Xiao Jiu? Why did he fight his opponent for so long? With his strength, shouldn't the fight be over long ago? On the viewing platform, Xiao Wu looked at Hu Jiu, who was still fighting her opponent head on, puzzled. I think he should be taking the opportunity to exercise. Tang San looked at Hu Jiu on the Soul Battle stage thoughtfully and replied, well, yes, Hu Jiu's approach is very good, because he always remembers the purpose of me bringing you to the Great Soul Arena. You should also learn from him. Remember that winning or losing is not really important. The important thing is to yourself strength enhancement point, whether it is combat experience or improving strength during the battle. As long as it is improved, it is not a waste of effort. This is. Flender turned to look at the few people watching the game, and said with a serious face point at the same time, looking at Hu Jiu on the Dao Soul stage is even more gratifying. There are not many such smart and talented students. It's a pity that Lao Zhao's stunned young man took the lead. It's a pity. Flender's words made Tang San, Damu Bei and the others think, and they had a deeper understanding of the tasks that Flender arranged for them. Dao Soul platform. Hu Jiu didn't know how many times he collided with Tire Hammer. He felt that his physical strength was about to reach the limit. I won't lose to you. Pay attention. Look at my second spirit ability, Berserk Amplification. Here, Taiyuki gasped heavily and suddenly stopped the movement in his hand. Originally, he was still dissatisfied with Hu Jiu and wanted to defeat him in a head-to-head manner with a reckless drive. Unfortunately, Hu Jiu's physical strength lasted longer than he imagined. In the end, he was the first to lose his strength point as a last resort. In order to win the Battle of the Soul, he had to give up the original idea and directly activate the fourth spirit ring skill, hoping to settle the world in one battle. Since that's the case, then I won't play with you. After seeing the Tire Hammer as tall as him, Hu Jiu didn't talk nonsense. The teleport skill was activated and instantly appeared in him behind him, the iron hammer in his right hand, and a high-speed rotating spiral pill in his left hand condensed in his hand, and attacked directly at the back of the head of the second iron hammer. Chapter 90 DMUBA Iron-039 S Radical Change. Teleportation and spiral pills are a no-brainer skill for Iron Hammer, not to mention, Hu Jiu also has two self-created soul skills, King Kong Indestructible Body and Phantom Dodge. One can increase physical strength, the other tossing around, slippery like a loach. A few minutes later, the violent increase of the Iron Hammer ended, and the body entered a weak state. Hu Jiu seized the opportunity. A spiral pill smeared his face, and finally knocked the sparring opponent to the ground. I never imagined that in this protracted battle, the victor was actually Mr. Little Nine Soul Sect with Carrot Martial Arts, who persisted until the end. Let us cheer for him. Little Nine Soul Sect, Little Nine Soul Sect, Little Nine. With the activity of the host, the atmosphere at the scene was not bad. Although the fighting style of Hu Jiu and Taiyuki was a bit boring, the head-to-head fighting style also excited them, and for the winner Hu Jiu, it was very face-saving cheers. This feeling seems to be pretty good. Hu Jiu waved to the audience with a smile. Under the excited cheers, he felt his blood boil, and involuntarily a desire to fight rose up. When Hu Jiu got off the Dao Soul stage and returned to the auditorium, he realized that only Flender and Oscar were waiting for him, and everyone else seemed to have gone to the Dao Soul stage. What about Xiao Wu and the others? Which Dao Soul stage did they go to? Hu Jiu asked. Xiao Wu and Xiao San are both on the 10th Soul Fighting stage. Damu Bei is on the 8th Soul Fighting stage, and Mahanjan is on the 15th Soul Fighting stage. Flender explained with a smile. Oh, then I'll go watch their game. Hu Jiu had already glanced around when Flender explained, but what could be seen at the scene was that Tang San used a poisonous spider web to bind his opponent, and finally used a spiral pill. The opponent is solved. As for the others, the battle is over now. From a distance, he saw Xiao Wu jumping and running towards him. Xiao Jiu. Fighting spirit is so much fun. I didn't expect the dean to give us such a fun task, and it won't be boring in the future. Xiao Wu blushed, and her whole person was even more charming. No problem. Come every day from now on. Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Wu, who was in a state of transformation, and always felt a commotion in her heart. Sure enough, the allure of Xiao Wu in a mature state is strong, and she still needs to strengthen her concentration. Immediately afterwards, Damu Bei, Mahanjan, and Tang San all returned. Mahanjan rushed to the registration desk excitedly, waiting for the prize money for the victory point. In order to win the battle of the soul, he had used all his strength. If his opponent hadn't thought that his Phoenix Evil Fire would be so difficult to deal with, he might not have been able to win. Damu Bei was about the same. He just happened to meet a 39th level agility attack type battle spirit venerable, and he almost lost. Today's task has been completed. If you want to go shopping in Soto City, you can, but remember not to cause trouble for me. After a few people registered and received the reward, Flender said to them, haha, good dean, we won't cause trouble. Flender just finished speaking. Mahanjan couldn't bear it any longer. He wanted to take advantage of the time before the transformation was over to carry out a novel and exciting game experience. Okay, then disband. Flender waved his hand and disappeared without a trace. Damn it, this old man shouldn't go. Seeing Flender hurriedly leave, Hu Jiu's expression turned strange and vain. All of them are geniuses, and even the special purpose of changing skills has been developed. The group went out of the big battle arena. Mahanjan, Damu Bei, and Oscar left impatiently. Before leaving, Damu Bei and Oscar greeted Hu Jiu with a friendly smile. Xiao Jiu, why didn't they tell us what they were doing? Seeing their mysterious appearance, Xiao Wu asked curiously. Don't worry about them, we play by ourselves, it's much more fun than them. Hu Jiu changed the subject vaguely, turning to look at Tang San. Little San, do you want to hang out with us? No, I'm going to find a blacksmith shop in the city. I just happened to collect a special kind of ore ahead. I want to make some gadgets. Tang San touched the 24 bridge Mingai at his waist and said with a smile, okay, then you go first. Xiao Wu and I will look for something delicious in the city, and we'll go back and bring you some in the evening. He had seen it when he first came here. There were many snacks in Soto City that night that he had never seen before. In terms of greed, he was no worse than Xiao Wu. In this regard, he and Xiao Wu have a common hobby. Xiao Wu held Hu Jiu's arm, jumping and dragging him to the night market. When he first arrived, it was only in the middle of the night that Hu Jiu and Xiao Wu, who were enjoying themselves, returned to Shrek Academy with a large bag of things. It is worth mentioning that when the snacks they bought were taken out of the storage soul tool, the snacks were still hot, which was very unscientific. When will the storage soul tool actually be able to be stored, even if you practice heat? Hu Jiu complained bitterly about this the next day. The college playground. Flender stood in front of Hu Jiu and the others. After yesterday's competition in the Great Soul Arena, I believe that you all have your own gains, but fighting is not enough. We also need to summarize and discuss and understand our strengths and weaknesses from the battle. This is the most important thing. In today's class, we will come to summarize yesterday's battle. Damu Bei, starting with you. Yes, Dean. The one who fought with me yesterday was an agile attack type battle soul venerable with a wind speed dog spirit. He is very fast. If it weren't for the low damage, and I cast the White Tiger King Khan transformation at a critical moment, if I strengthen my defense and strength, maybe I will lose. Damu Bei shook his head dejectedly and explained, you're doing it right. In the face of an opponent faster than you, the only thing you can do is to strengthen your defense. You can ask Leo Zhao for advice later. Flender nodded, looking over Oscar to Tang San. President, my opponent is a strong attack type battle soul venerable. His strength is very strong, and he almost broke free from my blue silver grass. Next, Hu Jiu and others made a summary of yesterday's battle, and Flender also gave guidance, so that they each have a direction. To make up for their shortcomings, needless to say, Hu Jiu's attack skills are too monotonous, so he needs to practice his own soul skills. There is also Xiao Wu. After switching to the agility attack route, she also showed some deficiencies in her attack power. Apart from the waist bow and her own 8-dan fall, she could only use her fists and feet to attack the enemy. Fortunately, there is a spiral pill that can temporarily make up for the shortcomings in attack power. However, increasing the attack ability has become Xiao Wu's most important thing right now. After the training, while Xiao Wu and Hu Jiu were discussing how to increase their attack power, Demu Bei and Oscar came to them. That Hu Jiu, can you sell me some more of the transformation carrot you gave us yesterday? Demu Bei's arrogant expression disappeared, replaced by a little eagerness. The performance of Oscar next to him was even more obvious, and his burning eyes were about to light up. The two of them used Hu Jiu's transformed carriage yesterday to make some changes to themselves from the root, and the result was unexpectedly good. Chapter 91 Xiao Wu and -039 S Soul Skill. Want to buy a transformation carrot? No problem, 100 gold soul coins are a bargain. Hu Jiu looked at Demu Bei and Oscar with a smile, as if he was watching two lambs to be slaughtered. The reason why Demu Bei and Oscar were given carrots yesterday was for today. Sell. Must sell. It is best to make all of Demu Bei's money. Remember that he is a fat sheep. 100 gold soul coins. Grab the money. I only sell 5 copper soul coins for 1 sausage. Oscar exclaimed in disregard of his image. His eyes were like Hu Jiu killing them. Hu Jiu nodded with a smile. Yes, I'm killing you. The effect is different, and the price is naturally different. As far as I know, although your recovery sausage has a good recovery effect and can satisfy your stomach, it only lasts for 12 hours, right? My carrots are different. Works just as well after 2 months. Of course, the most important thing is the effect. Changing the taste of carrots. You must have tried it yesterday, so my price is very reasonable. 100 gold soul coins. No problem. I want 10. To Demu Bei, 100 gold soul coins would only be the price of the Rose Hotel for 10 days, and for tens of thousands of gold soul coins per month pocket money for him. This amount of money is not a concern. Okay, these are 10 transformation carrots. Here. Hu Jiu stretched out his hand and wiped it on his wrist, and a bunch of transformation carrots appeared in his hand. Demu Bei also stretched out his hand and handed out a bag of gold soul coins. The two delivered the goods with one hand and the money with the other, and the transaction was quickly completed. I'll take one too. Oscar gritted his teeth and pulled out 100 gold soul coins. Hu Jiu's transformation of carrots has a very good effect, making him feel addicted. For the sake of happiness and joy, he also struggled. Okay. Hu Jiu refused to come. 1 piece was money. 100 gold soul coins was enough for him, and Xiao Wu to buy a lot of delicious food. Welcome. To come again next time. Hu Jiu waved to Demu Bei. The more generous customers, the better. 9th. Brother, you see, I don't seem to have so much money to buy your transforming carrots. Can you make it cheaper? At this time, Mahangjin, who had been staying behind the crowd, rubbed his hands and said while licking his face, Xiao, Maya, it's not my brother who told you that it's better that you don't go to that kind of place in the future. Not only will it hurt your body, but it will also delay your cultivation, which will outweigh the gain. Hu Jiu said earnestly, this isn't Wuhan doing a trick. I can't do anything about it. Mahangjin said pitifully, tell me, how long can you go for the longest? Hu Jiu asked. Hey, it's only half a month at the longest. Oh no, it's a week, and it can last for a week at most. Mahangjin rolled his eyes. No matter why Hu Jiu asked, he just wanted to shorten the time. Okay, then to a month. If there are more, you can count as 1 gold soul coin. Hu Jiu nodded and promised Mahangjin 2 carrots. It's not that there aren't many. He really felt that Mahangjin was hurting his body. Although he couldn't see the hidden danger for the time being because of his martial spirit, he found in his perception that Mahangjin was already a little puffy. Will become real as his younger brother. Hu Jiu couldn't harm him either. Hey, thank you, brother Jiu. If you have anything in the future, just tell me. Although you may not be as strong as brother Jiu, you need to run errands for some minor troubles. Mahangjin patted his chest with a moved Facepoint, can you not be moved? When Damubei and Oscar were buying carrots, he was there. Carrots that could sell 100 gold soul coins only charged him 1 gold soul coin, and they could keep accounts. What is this? It's brother Jiu who values him. Well, cultivate well in the future. With your current cultivation level, I'm too slow to run errands for me. Hu Jiu said with disgust. No, 9th brother. I broke through to the 22nd grade yesterday. With your cultivation carrot, my cultivation will be up soon. Mahanjan said aggrieved. Hey, when did you break through? Why don't I know? Xiao Wu looked at Mahanjan in surprise. The level was raised. This is a big deal. He broke through when he fell asleep last night. Didn't I have time to tell you guys? Mahanjan was a little embarrassed as he explained the scene when he broke through. Damn. Your mother is really talented. You are this. Hu Jiu didn't know what he meant by sleeping and was shocked on the spot why he couldn't meet such a good thing. Raising his eyes, he glanced at Xiao Wu quietly. Why don't you try it sometime? Well, it's amazing. It seems that your cultivation talent is not low. Tang San on the side looked at Mahanjan without realizing it and praised him with a face of encouragement. That sincere expression almost made Hu Jiu smile. Hey this fool. The few people chatted briefly for a while. Then Tang San and Mahanjan went back to their dormitory to start cultivating. Only Hu Jiu and Xiao Wu were left. Xiao Wu, you also heard what the dean said in the morning. He is right. Both you and I have the problem of insufficient attack power. I'm okay. Now the King Kong is not bad and the phantom dodge has entered the threshold, and the physical strength will increase in the future. After that, you can still fight with the hammer technique, but you can't do it. Only one spiral pill obviously won't work, or I'll ask the teacher later to see if he can do anything. Hu Jiu said, that's not good. I'm not a disciple of teacher Xiao. How can I let him teach me the truth of soul skills? Xiao Wu said hesitantly. Hey, it's alright. It's not that he doesn't know about our relationship. Yours is mine. I'll beg him. It should be fine. Hu Jiu hugged Xiao Wu and couldn't let it go. Just do it. In the afternoon, Hu Jiu found a time and came to Xiao Waoqi's training ground. Hearing Hu Jiu's request, Xiao Waoqi thought for a while. There is one soul skill, but this soul skill requires a relatively higher level of soul power manipulation. With your little girlfriend's playful nature, it's a bit difficult to learn it. Hu Jiu's heart was overjoyed by Xiao Waoqi's words. He wasn't quite sure about other things, but when it came to controlling his soul power, that was the problem. Teacher, you underestimate Xiao Wu too. You know our spiral pill skill. No matter how high the requirements for soul power manipulation are, can you surpass it? I almost forgot about this. It seems that my skill is really suitable for her. Here, you can practice it yourself. Xiao Waoqi took out a cheat sheet and handed it to him without forgetting to warn. Remember, only can you pass it on to Xiao Wu if you let me know that you passed it on to others. See how I deal with you? Well, don't worry, teacher. I won't pass on this secret book to anyone except Xiao Wu, including myself. Hu Jiu patted his chest with a serious look on his face. It's not necessary. If you are interested, you can practice and watch it. Come on, let's go. Xiao Wuji waved his hand and told Hu Jiu to get out of the way. It's just a soul skill. He really doesn't care much about it. Anyway, he doesn't have the talent to cultivate. However, when he got them, he also spent a lot of effort to let people learn them in vain, and he didn't want to, in case he would have his own descendants in the future. He's only in his 50s. He's still very young. Chapter 92. The master is here. Xiao Wu, I'll give you the soul skill. Hu Jiu happily ran to Xiao Wu and raised the secret book in his hand. Mr. Xiao really gave it. Xiao Wu was a little surprised. Of course, my teacher is not a stingy person. Besides, he only gave you a soul skill because you are his disciple and daughter-in-law. We must remember this friendship. Hu Jiu proudly said. Of course, Xiao Waoqi can be so happy. In fact, there is also the reason why Hu Jiu has been honoring him with cultivation carrots. There is nothing else, mainly because Hu Jiu has given too much. Who is your daughter-in-law? Don't be ashamed. Xiao Wu turned sideways, a little embarrassed. It's Jiu, isn't it obvious? Hu Jiu caught up with a smile and handed her the secret manual in his hand. Look, what spirit skills the teacher gave you. I haven't had time to read it yet. Yeah. Xiao Wu took the secret book and sat beside the bed to read it seriously. Hu Jiu didn't bother, just accompanied Xiao Wu. Of course, he was not idle. While accompanying Xiao Wu, he was also using the soul power meditation method to practice. Under the influence of Xiao Wao Qi, he has also become motivated. Whenever he has time, he will cultivate consciously, and there is no need for anyone to urge him. Although the effect of cultivation is not as strong as hanging up, it can also speed up the speed of soul power improvement. After all, after reaching the soul sect level, it is more difficult to improve each level. If you don't work hard, you might be caught up by Tang San at some point. After a while, Xiao Wu put down the secret book and happily said to Hu Jiu, "This secret book is very suitable for me. The name is the hand knife. It is a soul power knife condensed in the hand. The higher the training level, the sharper the hand knife. My attacking ability will not be weak in the future. Hand knife, it's really good." Hearing Xiao Wu's description, Hu Jiu instantly flashed the skill of chakra scalpel in Hokage. Remember that the chakra scalpel can not only cut the muscles of the enemy, but also the nerves. In the future, you can remind Xiao Wu to make her work hard in this direction. Moreover, although the name is hand knife, it can also be called foot knife, leg knife, arm knife. As long as the soul power control ability is strong enough, there can be a knife anywhere. Such a useful soul skill makes Hu Jiu a little jealous. This is also useful to him. Unfortunately, the hang-up seat is no longer available. Hey. That's not right. Can't I practice by myself without an on-camera position? Why do I always rely on Goldfinger? In an instant, Hu Jiu reacted again. What if there is no hang-up seat? He can learn by himself differently. Wouldn't it work if you don't have a hang-up seat? But in an instant, another thought popped up again, making him almost give up on his own cultivation. Since there is time to practice soul skills, why not practice soul power? Wouldn't it be more useful to raise your level earlier? Choices made Hu Jiu a little embarrassed. Damn, what's there to choose from? Adults, both. You can cultivate your soul power while cultivating your soul skills. Except for yourself. Everyone cultivates like this. Hu Jiu patted his forehead and decided to practice by himself. Fortunately, his soul power control skill level is high enough, and the hand knife, a skill that requires high soul power control, is not difficult for him. Even so, by the time he got started, it was already a week later. Looking at the incessant saberlight in his hand, Hu Jiu's sense of achievement should not be too high. This did not rely on the on-hook panel to cultivate successfully. Incredible. Xiao Wu, look, I succeeded. Raising the blade in his hand, Hu Jiu showed off to Xiao Wu, who was still working hard to cultivate his soul skills. HMPH, what's so amazing? I'm going to succeed soon. Xiao Wu pouted in dissatisfaction and entered into the practice of more hard work. An hour later, Xiao Wu also successfully completed the introductory training. Xiao Jiu, I also succeeded. Let's cultivate to cut down this tree first. Xiao Wu happily raised her palm and slashed a knife on the tree trunk. Okay, compare it. Hu Jiu also became interested in Xiao Wu's request, condensed his knives, and slapped it down. It's a pity that the hand knife that just started was not sharp. Whether it was him or Xiao Wu, they only cut a shallow wound on the tree trunk. It felt like they had been cut with a dull axe. 9th brother, Xiao Wu, the dean asked us to gather. While the two were working hard to cultivate the hand knife soul skill, Mahanjan ran over and said to them, "Why isn't today's training session completed? Why are you still gathering?" Hu Jiu asked strangely. It seems that a new teacher has come to the academy, and the dean asked us to meet him. Mahanjan explained. New teacher? Could it be that the master is here? Hu Jiu touched his chin and guessed. In order to verify whether his guess was correct, Hu Jiu asked Mahanjan, "Have you met that teacher?" "I've seen it once. That master is about the same age as the dean. He looks very serious and old-fashioned. If he really becomes our teacher in the future, we will feel better." Mahanjan touched his forehead, and he was very fond of the new teacher. Do not catch a cold. It's short hair, hey, brother Jiu, how do you know? Have you met that teacher? Mahanjan looked at Hu Jiu in surprise and asked, well, you're right, if it's that person, you'll be in trouble in the future. Hu Jiu looked at Mahanjan seriously, with pity in his eyes. What should I do? No, why am I in trouble? Aren't we together? Mahanjan was a little disappointed at first, and then suddenly reacted, because my relationship with that teacher is not very good. I don't know if I can't take his class, but you definitely won't be able to run. Hu Jiu said with a shrug. Zhao. Jiu, do you mean that the master is here? Zhao Wu reacted when she heard Hu Jiu say this. Well, if it's him, we'll find out if we go and see. Hu Jiu exhaled. Master, don't force me. On the way back, Hu Jiu flashed this thought in his mind. Returning to the school playground from the back mountain, Hu Jiu saw the familiar back from afar at this moment. The back figure was holding his hands behind his back, his black robe moved with the wind, and his body exuded the breath of a master. Hey, this forced you to pretend. Full marks. Okay, I called you here this time, mainly to introduce a teacher to you. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Flender turned his head and said to everyone, you can call him the master. The master is a knowledgeable master of theory. He summed up the 10 core competencies that are currently circulating in the spirit master world, and at the same time, he is also Tang San's teacher. Welcome everyone. Clap. Clap clap. As soon as Flender's voice fell, Damu Bei and the others applauded with respect. Being able to teach Tang San, who was 33 at the age of 11, was not as good as Hu Jiu, but he was powerful enough. Moreover, Hu Jiu and Tang San had such a good relationship, there might not be any credit from the master. If they also have the guidance of the master, will they be as powerful as Tang San and Hu Jiu in the future? Hu Jiu didn't disappoint. She patted her palm twice to express her welcome. Hello, I'm the master. Some of you may know me, and some may not. But it doesn't matter. I believe that you will understand me with the future contact. The master's tone was stiff and strange. After speaking, his eyes stopped on Tang San, Hu Jiu, and Zhao Wu for a while, then looked at everyone with a serious face. In the future, I will be in charge of your teaching plan. I have read your resumes. After that, I will develop some targeted teaching methods. Except for cooperation, I don't want to hear any different voices, no matter who it is. I will be treated equally. When talking about treating everyone equally, the master gave Hu Jiu a special, deep look. Chapter 93. Equal treatment? Are you ready to be soft? Seeing the deep meaning in the master's eyes, Hu Jiu's thought flashed through his heart. In fact, Hu Jiu did guess right. Grandmaster has 2 obsessions in this life. One is to break through the 30th level, and the other is to cultivate Tang San into a talent. Both goals are trying to prove themselves, prove that he can achieve great things even with low talent. Originally, before meeting Hu Jiu, he had already given up on his first goal and just wanted to concentrate on cultivating Tang San. But who would have thought that Hu Jiu's cultivation carrot gave him a glimmer of hope. Although he felt that Hu Jiu was too greedy, he actually asked him to exchange the family's self-created spirit ability, and after adding the interview, to explore the reason why his spirit ring ability improved so quickly, there was a bit of unpleasantness between the two. However, after taking Hu Jiu's carrots, he saw the hope of breaking through level 30. In the face of obsession, what is a little unpleasant, and as time passed, his heart was scratching like a cat, and he could not wait to find Hu Jiu immediately, and agree to his conditions. So now, here he is. After Flender announced his disbandment, Grandmaster immediately stopped Hu Jiu. Even Tang San didn't have time to pay attention. Hu Jiu, I want to talk to you. Talk? Okay, let's find a place. Hu Jiu had expected the arrival of the master, but he didn't expect the master to come so soon. To be honest, Hu Jiu didn't want to see the master at all. If he could, he would like to give the master a sap and throw it away. Zhao Jiu. Tang San looked at Hu Jiu with worry in his eyes. It's not that he is worried about Hu Jiu. He is worried about the master. With the cultivation level of the master and the soul master level, it is easy to deal with Hu Jiu's current cultivation. Don't worry, I'm measured. Hu Jiu waved his hand and comforted, hopefully. Seeing the backs of Grandmaster and Hu Jiu leaving, Tang San still looked worried. I don't know if the master came out with me. What do you want to talk about? The came to a remote hillside, and Hu Jiu asked first. Yeah. The master hesitated, as if thinking about something. After waiting for a while, the master said stiffly, Hu Jiu, because of some things in the past, there may be some misunderstanding between us. I hope you don't mind. Hu Jiu was stunned. I thought that he already knew the master's temperament very well. Stubborn, old-fashioned, stubborn, and ignorant of flexibility. These are all descriptions of him. But he never expected that the master would be soft on him, which surprised Hu Jiu. Okay, you're Tang San's teacher. For his sake, the past will pass. After thinking about it, Hu Jiu still felt that it was not appropriate to have a too rigid relationship with the master now. That's good. A stiff smile appeared on the master's face. So, is the master looking for me just for this? Looking at the master, Hu Jiu began to guess his purpose. He didn't believe it. The master looked for him just to convince him. I want to exchange a self-created soul skill for your cultivation carrot. As soon as he said this, even the master himself felt ashamed and slapped his face. When Hu Jiu took the initiative to trade with him, he didn't agree. Now it's good. Actually, it's not a slap in the face. To bring it to the door, to repeat the old story. So, that's how it is. Hu Jiu touched his chin, but didn't answer immediately. He had already guessed at the request of the master, which would make the arrogant master subdue in front of him, and he couldn't think of any other reason other than cultivating carrots. To be honest, I might have been very happy if the master agreed to my conditions in the early years. But you may not know much about it. Now I have paid my respects to Mr. Hu Jiu, the king of Fu Doming. With his very generous teacher, I have already. It's not bad to create your own soul skills. Hu Jiu tried hard to hide the smile on his face, so it was difficult. Haha, I told you to ignore me at the beginning, but now it's alright. Licking my face and begging me, how can this feeling be so cool? What? Have you met King Fu Doming's Aowaoki? Are you still worshipping him as your teacher? There was a hint of shock in the master's eyes. Hu Jiu apprenticed to Hu Jiu, which he did not expect. Aowaoki's title was very loud because of the spirit hall incident, and even he had heard of it. At this moment, the master felt a hint of regret in his heart. If he had known that Hu Jiu could have the current achievements, maybe he would have taken Hu Jiu one step earlier. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the world, and he may have forgotten that. Even if he wants to accept Hu Jiu, will Hu Jiu agree to him? Yes, the teacher's eyes are like torches, and he took a fancy to me at first glance. In order to let me apprentice, he also gave me a lot of self-created soul skills. Hu Jiu looked proud. Didn't you look down on me at the beginning? How is it now? Do you regret it? Then can I buy some of your cultivation carrots? The master's expression changed, but he soon gritted his teeth and said while rubbing his waist with a painful expression, of course you can buy it. Why don't I sell it if I make money? Hu Jiu looked at the master with a smile, but there is one thing the master may not know. Do you know how much my carrots sell for now? Hu Jiu's words made Grandmaster's heart skip a beat. Could it be? Well, although the carrot of change is stronger than the carrot of cultivation, it is better than novelty. I sold some of them, and it was only 100 gold soul coins. The people who bought it were very satisfied with this price. Without caring eyes, Hu Jiu said with certainty, then, how much are you going to sell the carrots for? Grandmaster's face stiffened again. He felt that Hu Jiu was amusing himself. I was going to sell 500 gold soul coins for a cultivation carrot, but you are Tang San's teacher, so I won't cheat on you. Just give you 100 gold soul coins. He was really willing to sell Grandmaster carrots, because only he knew that in the near future, as long as Tang San returned from Bingholiangayan, even without his cultivation carrots, Grandmaster could still break through. I'm sorry, Flender, for not taking the opportunity to make a fortune at this time. You're Carrots are too expensive. I can't afford them. The master twitched the corners of his mouth and finally said expressionlessly, "That's a pity. It seems that I can't do this business." Hu Jiu was also very helpless. This master is really a poor ghost, the son of the dignified Blow Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master. He is actually a moneyless guy, ruining him expression point until the end. The master failed to achieve his goal. Because he had no money, he could only watch Hu Jiu leave helplessly point at this moment. The master even had the urge to arrest Hu Jiu and imprison him point. However, the strength he does not allow point here. Hu Jiu turned on the 5 sense enhancement technique, and a thought never left the master from beginning to end point. How powerful is his current cultivation carrot, and his heart is clearer. In order to prevent accidents, it doesn't matter, even if he is a little tired. Chapter 94 Hu Jiu fights the 5 monsters. However, it seems that Hu Jiu looks at the master too highly point. After their conversation ended, the master went straight back to his residence, then met with Tang San, and talked a lot about his feelings, making Hu Jiu embarrassed to look at it again. Point after Tang San left, Grandmaster took out Shrek's students' materials and started researching, just like a teacher with a strong sense of responsibility. Point the next morning. The college playground. Point the master stood in the middle of the crowd, while Flender and Awakens stood beside him. After my research, I found that in the current Soul Master world, many Soul Masters only focus on training their own soul power and fighting skills, but ignore the most fundamental and basic physical training. But they don't know that, if they don't have a good body, they will. How can I withstand the huge spirit power brought by the spirit ring? So starting today, I need you to exercise your body. The master's words made Awakens behind him open his mouth in dissatisfaction. In terms of physical strength, I, Awakens, disapprove of anyone. Fortunately, Awakens is not an idiot. He knows that boss who attaches so much importance to Grandmaster. How could he not give some face? However, at this moment, in the eyes of Awakens, he began to doubt Master, the so-called strongest theoretical master. Hu Jiu, get out of the queue. The master looked at Hu Jiu expressionlessly, without the friendly expression of the meeting alone yesterday. Here, Hu Jiu gently took a step forward and replied, "I'll give you a mission. From now on, knock them down one by one without hurting your muscles. Can you do it?" The master asked. "Hey, this is easy, but I think they can go together. Otherwise they won't have any chance." Hu Jiu turned to Tang San, Damu Bei and the others and asked, "Do you think so?" HMPH, Hu Jiu, don't be too proud. The 5 of us will go together. You will definitely lose. Damu Bei snorted coldly and said unconvinced, "That's right, Zhao Jiu, don't underestimate us." Zhao Wu raised her palm resentfully, and the sword light on it was flickering. "Well, Zhao Jiu, you are floating." Tang San looked at Hu Jiu lightly, his eyes filled with fighting intent. He asked himself, if they were alone, it would be impossible for Hu Jiu to beat Hu Jiu, but with 5 of them together, how could Hu Jiu beat him? Hey, then try it. Hu Jiu's fighting spirit rose in an instant, and it seemed very interesting to beat them all alone. On the side, the master looked at this scene lightly, and did not comment on it. Standing opposite the 5 people, Hu Jiu's transformation skills were activated. His body swelled instantly, and a burly man appeared in front of everyone. The meteor hammer is clenched tightly in his hand, and the deep cold thorns on it flicker with a bit of cold light, wanting to choose someone to devour. 9th. Brother, it's not fair. You can't hit us with a meteor hammer, so it won't achieve the meaning of training. Looking at Hu Jiu's meteor hammer, Ma Hongzhen's eyes flashed a trace of fear. What a pain in the body. Hu Jiu, remember my words. I asked you to defeat them without hurting your muscles, and I didn't ask you to use lethal weapons. Beside him, the stiff voice of the master sounded. Okay, no need. Hu Jiu shrugged, put his hand on his wrist, and instantly put the meteor hammer into the soul tool. Do you think that without the meteor hammer, I can't beat you? Naive. Hu Jiu smiled faintly, and turned to face Awakens' direction. Teacher, let me use your martial spirit. In the blink of an eye, an extremely tall bear shadow appeared behind Hu Jiu. Immediately afterwards, Hu Jiu's whole body was covered with a thick layer of brown hair, and his body instantly became 3 meters tall. His muscles were knotted, his eyes turned brown, his body released a domineering aura, and 7 spirit rings kept ringing around him. The body is moving. Haha, Xiao Jiu, hit me and beat them all down. Outside the arena, Xiao Walqi's heroic voice sounded, seeing Hu Jiu use his martial spirit to possess the body, but he was very happy. Hey, don't worry, teacher, I won't embarrass you. Hu Jiu laughed, looking back at Tang San and the others jokingly. Xiao Jiu, you can't use this either. It's teacher Xiao's martial spirit, don't be fooled. Xiao Wu pouted and looked at Hu Jiu dissatisfied point. Although changing skills can only change other people's martial spirits, spirit ring skills cannot be used, and this limitation can only be changed face to face. But it is undeniable that Hu Jiu is very powerful. After transformation point, you must know that Hu Jiu's change now is the spirit of the 76th level beast spirit. And the blessing of the spirit on the body is not comparable to them. Point, it can be said that this is another trump card of Hu Jiu, and he has never seen him use it before. Point, of course, at that time, even if you wanted to change, you couldn't change it. The reason why you can change now is mainly because of the support of the 2nd level King Kong's indestructible body. Point, otherwise, if you want to change Xiao Walqi's martial spirit, you want to eat shit. This can't be done. Why can't I use the martial spirit that I have created by my own ability? Hu Jiu, regardless of Xiao Wu's protest, came to Oscar in a flash, grabbed him by the neck, and threw it out like a chicken. The first one eliminated. Damn, the white tiger is possessed. Damu Bei reacted instantly, took 2 steps back, and the spirit possession was activated. The first soul skill, entangle, violet. Light flashed in Tang San's eyes. He stretched out his hand, and the ground in front of Hu Jiu quickly sprang out thick blue silver grass. Hey, little San, your skill is useless to me. Hu Jiu smiled faintly, stretched out his palm as big as a fan, and the light of the sword spread on it. Point, swish swish. After a blade of light, Tang San's blue silver grass had already severed, not causing any impact on Hu Jiu. Ha. Yo. The first soul skill, waist bow. At this moment, Xiao Wu's figure flashed, and she came to Hu Jiu in an instant. Her feet were like noodles, wrapping around Hu Jiu's neck in an instant, not even responding to his phantom dodging. Haha, is the waist bow? I'm not afraid. Hu Jiu's focus was down, his legs were stomped, but he didn't let Xiao Wu throw him out. Come on, beauty, you can't escape. Pu Shan waved his hand. Hu Jiu grabbed Xiao Wu with a smile. Don't even think about it. Xiao Wu gave Hu Jiu a playful smile. Her eyes filled with pink light. Point, Xiao Wu's charming soul skill was activated. Point, Hu Jiu couldn't stand this. He was fascinated on the spot, and his face even showed a smile that men understand. Good chance. Damu Bei, Mahangjin. Seeing this scene, Tang San's eyes flickered, and the 2nd spirit ability parasitic took advantage of the opportunity, and from Hu Jiu's brown hair, blue silver grass quickly sprang up, instantly binding him firmly. 2nd soul skill, white tiger light wave. 2nd soul skill, phoenix fire wa day. Mu Bei and Mahangjin came to Hu Jiu's side in an instant, and started to attack remotely. Xiao Wu, you can't use the charm skill indiscriminately. If you want to use it, you have to wait until no one else is there. Facing the attack of several people, Hu Jiu shouted exaggeratedly, and a layer of white light instantly filled his body. Point, the 4th soul skill, abnormal, expel. Chapter 95. After possessing the 4th spirit ability, holy light, Hu Jiu completely beat Tang San to death. Point, directly scrap his 2nd spirit ability parasitic, and his 3rd spirit ability vicious poison. Point, after a burst of white light, the parasitic blue silver grass on Hu Jiu's body fell off one after another, turning into pieces, and falling to the ground. Point, but at this moment, Xiao Wu's spiral pill, Damu Bei's white tiger fierce light wave, and Mahangjin's phoenix line of fire were already in sight. Hey, I dodge. Hu Jiu's teleportation skills were activated, and he appeared in front of Mahangjin in the next instant. Point, in group battles, of course, the weak should be kicked out. Fatty, hold on. Seeing this scene, Daemubei's eyes became more evil. With a loud cry, the White Tiger King Khan transformation turned on. His body paused slightly and rushed towards Hu Jiu. Hey, it's too late. Hu Jiu grinned, and the big palm of his hand instantly shrouded Mahanjan. Yeah. Fatty, get out of the way. Sister Xiao Wu is here to save you. Daemubei didn't arrive, but Xiao Wu immediately appeared in front of Hu Jiu. Since she obtained the third spirit ability, teleportation, in terms of speed, she has been able to catch up with Hu Jiu's teleportation. Let go of Fatty, come to me, if you have the ability. Xiao Wu Jiu shouted, her palm flickered with uncertain light, and attacked Hu Jiu's palm. Hey, it's the same. When you came here. Hu Jiu ignored Xiao Wu's attack. Xiao Wu, the spirit skill of the hand knife, was only trained point with his palm still down. He grabbed Mahanjan righteously. The second one, elimination. Hu Jiu grabbed Mahanjan's head and threw it aside. His eyes turned to Tang San and Daemubei point compared with Mahanjan, who was only 22, Daemubei, who was 34, and Tang San, who was 33, were obviously a little more difficult to deal with. Forget about Xiao Wu. Her speed is too fast. It is even more impossible to defeat her in a short time. Tang San, quickly use your limiting spirit ability to drain his spirit power. His teleportation won't be able to be used a few times. Daemubei roared. A milky white light ball condensed from his mouth and sprayed at Hu Jiu past. Impossible. In terms of spirit power, the three of us together can't compare to Xiao Jiu. I'm afraid his spirit power hasn't been exhausted yet, so we'll use it up first. Tang San shook his head, denying Daemubei's plan. Then, what do you say? Daemubei glanced at Tang San with evil eyes. He suspected that Tang San was lying to him in order to build momentum for Hu Jiu, so as to replace his academy boss. There's no other way. You can only fight with Xiao Jiu. Xiao Wu and I are by your side to help you. Tang San didn't pay attention to Daemubei's eyes, but looked at Hu Jiu with a solemn expression. The 5 people, now that 2 have been defeated, there are only 3 of them left. He didn't want to lose this battle. Hey, Xiao San understands me and compares his spirit power with me. What do you compare? Hu Jiu laughed and looked at the group of people. With the blessing of 4 spirit rings with an average of 7,000 years, he had sufficient spirit power. The strength of soul power can even be compared with the Soul King. Daemubei, Tang San, and Xiao Wu divided into 3 directions and surrounded Hu Jiu in the middle, moving slowly, trying to find Hu Jiu's flaws. Since you guys won't come, then I'll come. Hu Jiu grinned. Her figure flashed instantly, and she came directly in front of Daemubei. Compared to Tang San and Xiao Wu, he wanted to beat Daemubei. Damn, are you underestimating me? In the state of the White Tiger King Khan transformation, Daemubei exuded the aura of a king, and the double pupils of his eyes turned into beast-like vertical pupils. It's not too bad to look down on. I just want to hit you. Hu Jiu smiled lightly, and without any skill, slapped Daemubei's face with a fist the size of a casserole. I'm afraid you won't succeed. Daemubei's evil eyes narrowed, and he shouted and clenched his fists to meet him. Boom. The 2 clashed. Hu Jiu stood still, but Daemubei took a few steps back. The third spirit ability, venomous spider web. At this moment, Tang San's attack arrived silently. Spiral. Pearl. Xiao Wu was not to be outdone. Her body instantly came to Hu Jiu. Her right hand was raised high, and the spiral pill smeared her face. Ah, Xiao Wu, you are actually covering my face. Hu Jiu shouted, and turned his head, while white light filled his body. But the 4th soul skill, Holy Light, was restored. He didn't care about Xiao Wu's attack, but Tang San's poison had to be released first, otherwise he wouldn't be able to take it for a long time. HMPH, now we are enemies, so it's better to smear your face. Xiao Wu proudly raised her chin, raised her palm, and slashed at him fiercely. This bitch is vicious. Hu Jiu broke away from Tang San's blue-silver grass and looked at Xiao Wu depressedly. Was this girl spoiled by him? You are so cruel to yourself. Okay, it seems that it's impossible to stay still. Hu Jiu shook his head, raised his hands, and 2 spiral pills with a diameter of 1 meter appeared in his hands. Damu Bei, look at the trick, Xiao. Wu's speed was too fast, and Tang San was haunted by ghosts, so the only one he could attack was Damu Bei. You actually use the spiral pill with both hands. Damu Bei was shocked for a moment, just dodged the first spiral pill, but the next moment was submerged by the second spiral pill. Point boom. Damu Bei was instantly blown away by the spiral pill, and he didn't get up for a long time. Haha, it's unexpected. The two-handed soul skill is very simple. Hu Jiu smiled proudly, and the 9-level spiral pill understood. Point third. Out, little San. Xiao Wu, are you admitting defeat yourself, or will I catch you one by one, and take care of you slowly? Turning his head, Hu Jiu looked at Tang San and Xiao Wu. Come on, I won't admit defeat. Tang San looked at Hu Jiu firmly, didn't insist to the end. How could it be possible for him to admit defeat? HMPH, I don't want to admit defeat. Xiao Wu raised her head and said unconvinced, okay, the next one is Xiao San. Hu Jiu teleported on, and in the next instant he was in front of Tang San. His fist as big as a casserole unceremoniously slammed into Tang San's head. Point out. Fortunately, Uncle Heo is not here now. Otherwise, if he were to see this scene, I'm afraid that Flender's end would be his own. Point. Hu Jiu laughed at himself, but in the next instant, he attacked even harder. Control the crane and capture the dragon. Tang San was not afraid of danger. He turned his feet, his hands turned into the color of white jade, and grabbed Hu Jiu's fists from a distance. Point. Hu Jiu only felt a smooth pulling force from the fist in his hand, and the center of gravity of his body began to shift involuntarily. Okay. Hu Jiu shouted loudly, and his body began to twist at a strange angle, stunned to find his center of gravity. Spiral pills, spiral pills. Hu Jiu and Tang San stretched out the other hand at the same time, and 2 spiral pills, one large and one small, attacked each other at the same time. Point boom. The spiral pills collided. Hu Jiu not only didn't dodge, but instead took a big step forward, grabbing with a big hand, grabbing Tang San, who wanted to retreat. Come on, let's perish together. Hu Jiu grinned, wanting to defeat Tang San. How could he not be a little more cruel to himself? Point. Tang San, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96. Boom. Hu Jiu grabbed Tang San and made him face the frontal impact of the 2 spiral pills at the same time. Point bang. Hu Jiu and Tang San were submerged by spiral pills at the same time. Point. The smoke cleared, but everyone found that the thief Hu Jiu used Tang San as a shield while he was under Tang San, not to mention intact, at least not seriously injured. Point. But Tang San couldn't do it anymore. He was hit head on by Hu Jiu and his own spiral pills. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, and his whole body was so soft that he couldn't use his strength. Xiao Jiu, you are so cruel. Tang San smiled bitterly as he looked at Hu Jiu hiding under him, his face full of conviction. Point. He never thought that Hu Jiu would be so cruel. Point. After all, in his impression, Hu Jiu would not do such a dangerous move. Haha, okay, Xiao Jiu, you have already learned a few points for the master's true inheritance. This is the way a man fights. Keep working hard. Before Hu Jiu could answer, Xiao Walqi outside the court had already given an explanation. Point. Hu Jiu turned back proudly and said to Xiao Walqi, it's all the teacher who taught me well, thanks to Xiao Wuji's teacher. In addition to his skills, he also learned 2 qualities. The first is to do your best to cultivate, and it is good to have a little improvement. Point. Another point is to be ruthless, not only to be ruthless to the enemy, but also to be ruthless to yourself. Point. This point is most clearly reflected in Xiao Walqi, and it is also the point that Hu Jiu was most affected by. Point. Xiao Walqi, who was slaughtered from the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, was ruthless all over his body. Hu Jiu often stayed by his side, and it was impossible not to be affected. Point. Hu Jiu took out a handful of Shengguan carrots and handed it to Tang San. then stood up and looked at the only opponent left on the field, Xiao Wu. Do you still want to fight? Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Wu teasingly, like a big bad wolf watching a little sheep. I don't fight. Xiao Wu quickly shook her head, knowing that she couldn't beat her. She was almost stupid in terms of speed. Even if Hu Jiu could teleport, even though there was a third spirit ability, she could still react. The key is to attack. Except for the spiral pill, the waist bow and the 8-dan fall can't help Hu Jiu, who is possessed by the powerful King Kong bear and spiral pill. Don't forget who created this soul skill. Comparing soul skills in front of the founder, isn't this Banman's axe? So, stop fighting. It's a very good battle. At your age, being able to have the current combat power is enough to make you proud. At the end of the battle, the master came to the crowd and said words of praise, but his face was expressionless, looking very strange. But don't be complacent. In my opinion, your fighting style is terrible. Let's talk about Oscar first. Why did the battle start and you were not vigilant at all, and you were eliminated by Hu Jiu without even reacting? The master's eyes became stern, making Oscar ashamed. And you guys, don't laugh. Oscar didn't react. As his companions, why don't you rescue him? Little San, you have the main responsibility for this. The master turned his head and glanced at Xiao Wu, who was giggling. Aim at Tang San. Yes, teacher, this is my responsibility. Tang San also lowered his head. Day, Mu Bei, Ma, Hongjin. Then, the master began to criticize everyone's shortcomings one by one, and after teaching the 5 monsters, he turned his attention to Hu Jiu. Hu Jiu, your skills are very unique, but you should also pay attention. After all, it's not that teacher's AO is not always in front of you. Okay. Hu Jiu nodded, but he didn't take it seriously. Without Leo's AO, is there no Leo Fu? If there is no Leo Fu and there are enemies, I still need you to remind me of this. I already understand your physical fitness and fighting ability. Now I will go to the next stage of training, physical training. Apart from Hu Jiu, other people will come with me to gather at the entrance of the village, and I will give you targeted physical training. The master turned to look at Hu Jiu. As for you, I heard that you are learning from his own creation with teacher's AO. Soul skills. In this regard, I won't overdo it. Hey, master, don't be so troublesome. In fact, I also want to try your training method. Hu Jiu cursed inwardly, but complimented in point, although Grandmaster's arrangement seems to be fine at first glance. After all, Hu Jiu has his own teacher, and he is also a self-created soul skill to improve physical strength. Cultivating with Xiao Wuji will definitely be more effective than training with Grandmaster, but Hu Jiu didn't believe that the master would be so kind. In his heart, he never lacked the greatest malice. To guess the master's purpose in the original book, Hu Jiu had a feeling that, when the master came to Shrek, the first thing he asked them to do was extreme training. Why? Because when Tang San first arrived at Shrek, the Shrek 7 devils could be said to be a mess, and the master took advantage of this to let them share wheel and woe and the arduous training, so that the relationship between Shrek quickly heated up. In a team, control type soul masters are generally the core of the team. Therefore, after an extreme training, Tang San successfully became the soul of the Shrek 7 devils. Of course, there were also reasons why Tang San was already excellent. But that is the original work. Now that there is more Hu Jiu, the variables have appeared. In order to become his own disciple, the master first used a battle to unify the 5 monsters, and also put Hu Jiu on the side. Now doing extreme training, Hu Jiu is excluded, and he is not given a chance to participate at all. This scheming is really high. If it wasn't for Hu Jiu's foresight, he would not have discovered this, and it's not until now that he has reacted. If it was someone else, he might have been recruited long ago. Just look at Damu Bei and the others. They wouldn't have thought of this at all. Hu Jiu even wondered if the master made such an arrangement to isolate him. After all, he disappointed the master yesterday. For the time being, he couldn't give up on Tang San's line. After all, it had something to do with immortal grass. If there is no Tang San, let's not talk about whether he can find the location of the two eyes of ice and fire. Even if he finds it and touches it, how would he get the immortal grass without Tang San? First, he didn't know what the fairy grass looked like. And secondly, he didn't know how to pick the fairy grass, and he didn't even understand how to take it. Instead of trying to think about whether or not these things are there, it is better to wait for the work and follow Tang San closely. For this reason, Hu Jiu rejected the master's arrangement on the spot and shamelessly wanted to participate in their training. If I want to isolate Lao Tzu, I will tell you that it is impossible. If he didn't want to follow Tang San closely, why should he care about Grandmaster's plans? After all, he didn't care about what was not the core at all. Just let Tang San do it. This kind of core, who wants to be who should go. The master was stunned. He didn't expect that Hu Jiu would actually be willing to participate in the physical training he arranged. Isn't he the most annoying of this kind of training? As for Hu Jiu's character, the master has done a lot of research. However, how did he know that Hu Jiu had changed a lot in personality under the influence of Xiao Walqi after not seeing him for a while? Chapter 97. Choose yourself. Your fitness. If you use my training method, it won't work very well. Hearing that Hu Jiu was also joining the training, the master was silent for a while and then spoke lightly. Whether the effect is good or not depends on the master's ability. Why don't you want to teach me, master? Hu Jiu showed a hint of sarcasm on his face. Calculate. Right, I'll let your calculation fail. As soon as these words came out, the master's eyes dodged for a moment, and then he and Hu Jiu looked at each other, not giving in to each other. At this moment, Xiao Walqi came to Grandmaster with his head touched, and his body inadvertently blocked Hu Jiu's gaze. He saw that something was wrong. It seems that in this kid's mind, my status is not as high as that of the master. In this case, why don't the master show his skills and let Lao Xiao and I learn to learn? Xiao Walqi looked at the master with a smile. Next to him, Flender only felt a pain in his head. What's the situation? Why does he have the feeling that the master is targeting Hu Jiu? It's okay to teach, but he has to obey orders unconditionally. The master spoke slowly. Hey, the master just arrived. You may not know that when we first entered the school, we reached an agreement with the dean. We have our own training plan. If there is a conflict with the training of the academy, we should unconditionally take the lead. So, I may not be able to obey your orders unconditionally. At the beginning, this rule was prepared for the master. What? It's ridiculous. Flender, how could you agree to absurd conditions? The master looked at Flender with disbelief in his eyes. Oh, I'll talk about this later, but I did agree to the conditions that Hu Jiu said. Flender smiled helplessly. Did you get such a good deal of monsters back in the day? I can't teach. I can't teach this kind of student. The master said angrily. Why can't you teach it? Why should we obey your orders unconditionally? Do you want us to do bad things and we also do it? Seeing that the master was unwilling to bring Hu Jiu to train together, Xiao Wu stood up angrily. What? Master, it's no wonder that people at Notting College used to say that they were cheating. I think they are really right. Xiao Wu, you. Tang San looked at Xiao Wu angrily. The master was his teacher. How could she say that? What? Did I say something wrong? The master is your teacher. What is Xiao Jiu? Who is you? Can't you see it? He is deliberately targeting Xiao Jiu. Xiao Wu was not afraid of Tang San and asked back with wide eyes. Then, you can't say that, teacher. You're a girl, aren't you gentle? Tang San's voice weakened, and he said daringly. The master was suspected of targeting Hu Jiu. With his intelligence, how could he not see it? But it was very embarrassing to be caught in the middle, so he didn't speak. It's none of your business to be gentle or not, and I don't want you to like it. I just want Xiao Jiu to like it. Hearing Tang San say he was not gentle, Xiao Wu became even more excited. Hu Jiu just stood there watching Tang San bickering with Xiao Wu, but he wanted to see if he had fed the white-eyed wolves his carrots over the years. Don't be arguing. Come with me if you want to receive training. Forget it if you don't want to. At this time, the master said in a stiff tone, then turned around and walked towards the entrance of the village. He couldn't bear to see his disciple being in a dilemma between him and Hu Jiu, but it was just a plan that was destroyed, and it will grow in the future. Behind, a group of people looked at each other, and finally Oscar asked cautiously, is this master training very strict? Hey, what is extreme training? It means that, as long as you don't die, you will practice to death. Ziao, you should seek more blessings for yourself. Hu Jiu raised the corner of his mouth and tried to smear the master, but Hu Jiu was right. Master does have some ability. He can predict the physical limit that a person can reach. He just controls this point during training so that you can't survive and you can't die. This is also something Hu Jiu can't accept. If I have the hang of it and the strength, why should I suffer this crime? Go to hell. Practice inside. Looking at Hu Jiu's deep white teeth, Oscar shuddered violently. Teacher, Jiu won't tell the truth. Mahanjan shrank his neck with a look of fear on his face. Well, Hu Jiu is right. From what I know about the master, his training really won't make you feel better, but that's why I asked him to teach you. As a soul master, you don't have the spirit of hard work, and hard work, no matter how talented you are, your lifetime achievements are limited. Flender nodded and said solemnly, this. Damu Bay, Oscar, and Mahanjan were all taken aback. Flender's words shattered their last hope. Especially Mahanjan. He is the hardest. Teacher, can I not go? Mahanjan looked at Flender pitifully. What do you think? Flender gave him a look and let him experience it for himself. But Damu Bay and Oscar were a little hesitant when they saw that Hu Jiu and Ziao didn't move. At this moment, Tang San didn't hesitate, turned silently and chased in the direction where Grandmaster left. Tang San still trusted Grandmaster's training, and he wasn't afraid to endure hardships. Mr. Zhao. As soon as Tang San left, Mahanjan became anxious. He glanced at Flender with a serious expression, and finally asked Zhao Wuji for help. But Zhao Wuji waved his hand, indicating that he couldn't do anything. Who made him not Mahanjan's teacher? If Mahanjan was his disciple, he could still talk to him to help him, but unfortunately he is not. Oscar stood on the spot for a while. His face was uncertain, but there was a thick beard covering it, but no one noticed anything. Hu Jiu's quarrel with the master made him see an opportunity, and he was wondering if he would gain benefits if he favored the master at this time. But he didn't know how much the dean valued the master. After all, the master has just arrived. In case the master causes public anger in the future and is abandoned by the dean, I want to see how ruthless Grandmaster's so-called extreme training is. Damu Bay looked at Tang San's leaving back, his eyes flashing with intense fighting intent. You Tang San dare to go, so can I. Hu Jiu, I can't beat it for the time being. Can I still beat Tang San? Hey, wait for me, I'll go too. Seeing Damu Bay's actions, Oscar cursed inwardly, gritted his teeth, and followed. Cough. Flender looked at Mahanjan, who had not moved, and pretended to cough. Teacher, if brother Ninth and sister Ziao don't go, I won't go either. I won't be a traitor. Mahanjan looked at Flender righteously, only feeling that he was a brave and fearless fighter now. Then, don't go. I'll give you a special training later. Flender looked at Mahanjan blankly and said lightly. Demo, can't I cure you? Okay, then let's go. Leave Zhao Jiu and Ziao to me, and I'll train them. Zhao Wuji gave a wink to the two who were standing there. Chapter 98. The release time has been set, and it will be tomorrow. So excited. Take this opportunity to reflect on yourself. Many people don't like Shrek's story, so I won't say the specific point, so as not to persuade you to quit. So I will downplay it later, and try to avoid poisonous spots. I write books to make everyone happy and happy to read. If it doesn't feel good, it's my fault. I need to reflect on this. Finally, there is the issue of updating. It is more certain that it will explode on the shelves. As for how much more, please see the first order. If the grades are not bad, I will not keep the manuscripts. There are more and more, and the fifth is to start. If there is no special reason in the later stage, it is usually 3 shifts. Of course, this also depends on the grades. The author resigned for some special reasons. If I can't eat, I will consider double opening or triple opening. Eat all the time. It is also possible to take a 2-month break and then go back to work. So, come back often. The girls at home are all in a hurry. _carrot. And also point the editor Penglay also gave pointers on the issue of single heroine and multiple heroines. If there is any dissatisfaction in the future, Penglay said that she can take the blame. _carrot. Finally, I would like to thank so many book friends for their support. I read comments, recommendations, etc. every day. I have memorized many IDs. Seeing these, I'm very motivated, and my passion for writing bursts out. Next, ask for a first order. Starting point reading app can watch advertisements for free. Q reading seems to be able to. This has not been verified. Anyway, support the genuine version. Don't talk about complaining. The purpose of writing the book is to prove myself, and I don't want to lose to ugly. Chapter 99 Zhao Walqi exerts his strength. Please order first. Tell me, what's going on between you and Grandmaster? In the training ground, Zhao Wuji looked at Hu Jiu calmly and asked, Teacher, I told you before that besides Zhao Wu-san, the master knows about my cultivation carrots. Hu Jiu sorted out the language and said slowly, the disciple wanted to exchange cultivation carrots for his own creations. Soul skills. He doesn't agree with it, and he also inquired about the secrets of the disciples. Yeah. Hearing this, Zhao Walqi's copper eyes widened, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. The reason why a secret is called a secret is that no one can inquire about it. If he dared to attack his own disciple's idea according to his temper 20 years ago, there is only one word: kill. Yesterday, the master found me again, and wanted to exchange his own soul skills with me, but the disciple has no shortage of soul skills now. So he refused. Then, he isolated you today. Zhao Walqi replied without Hu Jiu explaining what happened next. A teacher is a teacher, you can even see that. Hu Jiu looked at Zhao Walqi in surprise, and immediately looked at his teacher with admiration in his heart. Doesn't the teacher usually look simple and straight? When were you so shrewd? Oh, I have eaten more salt than you have eaten rice. You can't see such a thing. It's a waste of so many years. Then, Teacher, what should I do now? With master here, I'm afraid my life will not be easy. Hu Jiu asked sincerely. Back then, wasn't the reason for apprenticing to Zhao Wuji just for this moment? Humph. What the heck? The so-called master is just a joking name for him. He really treats himself as a character. Zhao Walqi snorted coldly. Zhao Walqi was extremely disdainful of this kind of trash who had no strength and only knew how to rhetoric. You to also put your hearts back in your stomach. With me here, let alone the master, even the dean has to give some face. Do you really think that my vice dean is nothing, then? Trouble the teacher. Hu Jiu said happily. Sure enough, Lao Zhao is awesome. This teacher, he was right. Stop talking nonsense. It's not all for you. Zhao Walqi waved his hand impatiently. My old Zhao's disciple still needs someone else to teach me. Where do you want to put my face? From. The next day, Zhao Walqi teamed up with Li Yusong, Xiao Zin Xiao and other seniors from the college to easily put a lot of pressure on Flender. You must know that these teachers in the academy are all brothers, that Flender has known each other for many years. Yes, the time spent together all year round is longer than the time spent with the master after so many years. It goes without saying how strong the feelings are. These little old men came forward to oppose the master under Zhao Walqi's shuttle, and Flender couldn't resist. In the final discussion, the master still stayed in the academy, but was only responsible for teaching Tang San, and the rest of the students were taught by them. What a joke. These old guys, they are not too young, and they have no descendants. They just want to support them in the academy and teach students by the way. And the master put them aside as soon as he came. It doesn't matter if no one mentions it. If you don't teach, you don't teach. Just enjoy your old age. But they couldn't stand Zhao Walqi's loud voice. In Zhao Walqi's mouth, they were pitiful creatures who were squeezed out by the Grandmaster alone. In Flender's heart, so many old fellows were no match for the Grandmaster alone. Otherwise, why leave the teaching task to the master alone? That's fine. A couple of old guys running off with crutches and arguing with Flanders faced with the questioning of several older brothers. How dare Flender be presumptuous? In desperation, he had to let the master suffer and barely satisfy both parties. The teacher is a teacher. It's really amazing. When Hu Jiu learned that Zhao Waoqi had resolved the matter silently, he immediately fell in admiration. One sentence solves the trouble. This is the real master. When Oscar learned of the news the next day, he looked at Dame Yubei with extremely resentful eyes. Wrong team. If he didn't go to training like Hu Jiu and the others yesterday, how much favor he would have gained from the academy teacher. If they are happy, they will pass on their efforts to press the bottom of the box. Dame Yubei was extremely uncomfortable with Oscar's gaze and scolded, "Bastard, don't look at me like that. I don't do anything." Bah. Boss day, I won't do it either. Oscar looked at Dame Yubei with contempt. This Lu tiger, with such an impure mind, even born into a big family. I bother. How was your life yesterday? Have you ever felt that life is worse than death? Mahanjan looked at them with a smile and asked curiously. As soon as Mahanjan said these words, Dame Yubei and Oscar changed color, and even Tang San's face became bitter. Ruthless. The master is so ruthless. He doesn't treat us like human beings at all. It's a pity you didn't go yesterday, otherwise you would know what life is better than death. Oscar screamed bitterly. That's very good. You have to endure hardships in order to be a superior person. With masters like Grandmaster training you, I believe your strength will be greatly improved. You can seize the opportunity. Hu Jiu looked at them with a smile. Especially it was a deep look at Oscar. Oscar panicked at the sight of him, and even his eyes began to dodge. Ghosts are willing to endure hardship. If you have to train like this to improve your strength, then I'd rather not improve. Anyway, I'm just a food type soul master, and I can rely on others to protect me in the future. Oscar said docilely, and at the same time, it was a disguised expression of convincing. Hu Jiu, he can't afford it. Didn't see him pick 5 of them yesterday, and he still won. Next, the academy life of Hu Jiu and others fell into peace. In the morning, there are various trainings, a knowledge course in the afternoon, and in the evening, you can selectively go to the soul fighting field for special training on soul fighting. Generally once every 3 or 5 days, one battle, leaving a few days to digest and summarize. And just like that, 3 months passed. In 3 months, Hu Jiu and the others were each promoted by 1 level. Among them, Mahanjan was directly promoted by 2 levels, and now he is a 24th level Great Spirit Master. As for why his strength increased so fast, Mahanjan explained his martial spirit and Hu Jiu's cultivation. I don't know what happened, but every time his evil fire broke out, his strength would be improved to a certain extent. Hu Jiu was envious of this talent. That evening, the Shrek 5 monsters, plus Hu Jiu, accompanied by Flender and the master, went to the Great Soul Arena of Soto City. Zhao Jiu, are we really going to have the second team battle today? Zhao Wu looked at Hu Jiu excitedly and was about to fly with joy. The 9 dances is finally about to open. Well, my King Kong's indestructible body and phantom dodge have been practiced to a certain extent. It's time to start our group's name, Hu Jiu said with a smile. In 3 months, not only did his spirit power level increase by 1 level, but King Kong's indestructible body and phantom dodge were simultaneously raised to level 5, and his strength was greatly improved. Chapter 109 Dances coming out. The 5th level King Kong is not bad, so that Hu Jiu has the ability to compete with the fighting spirit masters of the same level. And the 5th level phantom dodging made his body very dexterous, and when combined with the 10th level 5 senses enhanced touch, a magical fighting premonition was born. This kind of premonition is similar to the premonition of Qiafeng's unmoved cicada. When the enemy just reveals the intention of attack, the attacked part will react first, automatically transmit signals to the body, and the body will act spontaneously to avoid the enemy's attack in advance. It was this ability that gave Hu Jiu the confidence to take Zhao Wu to the Soul Sect level double competition. Haha, I'm looking forward to the first battle of the 9 dances. Seeing Hu Jiu nodding, Wu jumped on Hu Jiu excitedly, not to mention her excitement looking at the intimate appearance of Hu Jiu and Wu. A trace of complexity flashed in the eyes of the master who had been following them. If he wasn't so arrogant back then, I'm afraid. Soon, the group came to the Great Soul Arena, and after registering skillfully, they each participated in the one-on-one single-player competition after a period of training. Now they rarely lose the game. Hu Jiu, in particular, has already upgraded his iron badge to a bronze badge, and has accumulated more than 100 points. As his strength increases, his points will increase faster. Maybe it won't be long before his badge will be upgraded to a silver badge. Meeting the mission requirements of the Dean. Today's game went relatively smoothly. The opponents that the Shrek people encountered were not very strong, and each of them easily solved their opponents. Next, they didn't leave, because it was the duet competition between Hu Jiu and Wu, and they also wanted to see how Hu Jiu and Wu would face their opponents in the duet competition. Even Damu Bei, who had always been dissatisfied with Hu Jiu, stayed. After a few months, he and Oscar both bought a lot of carrots from Hu Jiu, and the friendship naturally eased. No way. Hu Jiu's change carrot is really useful, especially at certain times. He can play some special tricks. It caused Damu Bei to slack off a lot in his cultivation during this period of time. Occasionally, Dean Flender would also visit Hu Jiu's business, but not many times. After all, for stingy money fans, Hu Jiu's carrots were too expensive. Next is the 9 dances versus Bull and Wolf. Please take your place. Hu Jiu tidied up her clothes, exchanged glances with Wu, and walked side by side to the double soul fighting stage. Behind him was Tang San, Mahanjan and others cheering and blessing. They had never experienced a two-person battle, and this time Hu Jiu and Wu took the lead, which just happened to give him some insight. As soon as the transformed iron-blooded tough guy Hu Jiu and the tall and charming Wu appeared on the stage, there were enthusiastic cheers from the audience. After participating in many single-player soul battles, the two have also accumulated a lot of fans. Now, seeing Hu Jiu and Wu participating in the double-player soul competition, they are full of expectations. Opposite the two, the cow-wolf combination also appeared. A sturdy man with a height of 2.5 meters and a bull helmet patted his chest and let out a roar, and the whole scene instantly became tense. Hu Jiu didn't talk nonsense, and instantly released the carrot martial arts, and the changed skills were activated, turning his martial arts into the tall bull martial arts on the opposite side. The bull's martial spirit added to his body, causing Hu Jiu's body to swell to 3 meters high, and a sense of strength instantly filled his entire body. The sturdy man on the opposite side's eyes froze for a moment. He had already heard about Hu Jiu's transforming soul skill in the Great Soul Arena. It is said that Hu Jiu likes to change the opponent's martial arts, and it seems that he has also practiced his own soul skills to strengthen his body. After changing the opponent's martial arts, his physical fitness is even stronger than that of the original owner. Little 9 Soul Sect, I didn't expect you to bring an oil bottle to participate in the two-person soul battle, so don't blame us brothers for being rude. You will lose this game. Among the two, another tall and thin middle-aged man smiled grimly. This middle-aged man had green eyes, like a wild wolf. His eyes were full of aggression. I won't know if I'll lose or not. Come on, don't talk nonsense. Hu Jiu shouted, gave Wu a look, and then took the lead in rushing towards the brute force opposite. Ban. Niu, hold him back, and let me deal with this little rabbit first. After the tall and thin man gave an order, he swayed his feet and rushed towards Wu. The battlefield was split in an instant. The bull was against Hu Jiu, and the tall and thin man was against Wu. The battle between Hu Jiu and Maniu was full of violence, and the two attacked each other with punches to the flesh. On the other hand, Wu and the tall and thin man did not lose their momentum. One of their martial spirits was a rabbit and the other was a wild wolf. They were both spirit masters of the agility attack type. Coupled with the instantaneous speed, it is almost impossible to see a figure when moving. Only occasionally when she stops attacking, can she find out where she is. A tall and thin man on the opposite side was not weak at all. Although his speed was not as fast as Xiao Wu's, he was very agile, with a pair of wild wolf sharp claws flashing coldly, and every counterattack was full of deadly threats. Raw, savage roaring bullets. On Hu Jiu's side, the bull saw that light could not help him with his skills, and impatiently activated his soul skill, spit out a thick ball of light from his mouth, and attacked Hu Jiu like lightning. Spiral. Pearl. Hu Jiu showed no weakness at all. Seeing the opponent's spirit ability attack, his body did not retreat, but instead advanced. At the same time, he stretched out his left hand, and a thick spiral pill with a diameter of 1 meter faced the opponent's attack point. Boom. The two collided, and the light ball and the spiral pill annihilated each other, and no one took advantage point. However, at this time, Hu Jiu stretched out his palm, and in his palm, there was an indeterminate sword light point self-created soul skill. Hand knife. This soul skill is the only one he has cultivated without relying on the hanging panel. Although he does not know the current level, its power is not weak at all. Point with the blessing of phantom dodging, Hu Jiu stretched out his hand swiftly, and a knife in his hand was like a phantom, very flashing in front of the bull's chest. Point here, the muscles were torn apart, and a scalded wound appeared on the bull's chest, and blood couldn't stop gushing out from the wound. Raw. You've angered me. Bloody fury. The bull roared, and regardless of the wound on his body, a burst of blood-colored light flickered on his body, and he rushed towards Hu Jiu with a fierce and savage aura. Point. It's a pity that Hu Jiu is not a fool. After seeing the bull's rage, he activated his teleportation skill and instantly joined Xiao Wu's battlefield. Soul. Power. Atomize. Hu Jiu also had a way to deal with the agility type battle spirit masters. I saw that pink light filled his body instantly. The soul power on his body began to boil, and the faint soul power began to be released. Point. The 10th level soul power control allows him to use his own soul power like an arm and a finger, and the soul power released from the outside is atomized. As long as the enemy gets a little bit of it, he will instantly be invaded by his soul power, causing the opponent's soul power to boil. Disguised restrictions on the movement of the enemy is a very useful restriction trick. Xiao Wu. Hu Jiu yelled, instantly giving Xiao Wu a battle signal. Ha. Xiao Wu agreed, instantly restraining the tall and thin man, preventing him from escaping from Hu Jiu's spirit power atomization range. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.